was all about where my boy Deshaun was going. When I talked to him, I said I played with him, and he kept us off the field a lot. And I was like, wherever you go,
Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, and so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show. Booyah!
Hey,
By the way, have you guys, I don't know why this is taking me 2 months to notice, but whenever they, in the intro, when it says Adam, he's like pauses between Adam and the Bull as if, why does this idiot have a nickname, the Bull? Like Adam,
Nobody
the
else
Bull?
got a nickname.
He just
Like
read the
he's
script for the first
questioning.
time as
You
he's
don't get to
recording.
be called Nitro. You don't get to be, you don't get
Wasn't
to be
that
called,
one of the characters from American Gladiators?
It was.
Nitro?
Yep. You don't get to be Tower. I can name them all. I wasted my youth.
you didn't pick that nickname though, did you?
No, I did not.
Yeah, so that's
Yeah.
a valid nickname. If
Yeah.
as long as it was given to you by
When
someone
I was
else.
13.
You're okay.
Quick origin story. Go ahead. We got to know it now.
off.
You told us. What's
Let's
the
make
origin?
sure this is all.
So the origin is 1984. I'm playing Babe Ruth League, Little League team. I was a first baseman. I was a big kid, obviously. I was actually tall when I was really young, and I just stopped growing. And I'm a Cubs fan, of course,
Right.
and the Cubs at the time had a first baseman, Leon Bull Durham.
Sure.
Yep.
And so all my friends just started calling me Bull. And then when I went to college, one of my roommates was also named Adam, and that's when it really took off.
Oh, yeah. yeah.
Because
It
they're
had
like,
to
well,
be
we
Adam
can't
the
call you
Bull.
both Adam.
Yeah.
So everybody just started calling me Bull. A lot of my older friends, when I meet their kids, they say, yeah, say hi to Uncle Bull. You know, they don't
Yeah.
even call me Adam anymore.
Enormously,
serious.
I'm going to take this off the rails before we
Yeah.
get started. Enormously important, similar story. When
Yeah.
I went to college, I tried to give myself a nickname, and it didn't work.
What
you want?
nickname did you try to tag yourself with?
Bishop.
What?
Is this true?
Yeah. I know.
Call me the Bishop.
I just liked it. I thought it gave us. I thought it was like the chess aspect to it. I like Bishop from the Alien movies. He was an android.
Oh, yeah, he was
Anyways,
cool.
yeah, he was. So I
Yeah.
tried to get it going on the floor. I'm just like, hey, what's going on, Bishop? You know. But the problem was
Bishop here.
The problem was a guy lived in my hall who also went to my high school as a friend of mine. He's like, that's not his name. No one calls him that. He blew it out. So for like 2
a
weeks,
D-bag that
I know,
guy was.
he just didn't like the
Would you
idea.
like us to
He didn't
start
like.
calling you
I'm
Bishop?
kind of.
He didn't like how cool.
Hey, I can't co-sign that. Only Bishop I know is from Juice and
Yeah.
X-Men.
Right.
Days of Future Past.
You're right.
I'm
no,
not
I
calling
didn't
you
deserve
Bishop,
it,
bro.
That's just me being honest.
I will
guys.
call you
blew it.
Bishop.
I don't want to be. It's
All
too
right,
late now.
too late.
But thank you.
The Bishop and the
sailed.
Bull.
Yeah, Bishop and the Bull.
Bishop and the Bull. It's a comedy act.
It sounds like that sounds like a 1970s cop movie.
It does. Yeah.
Bishop and the Bull.
Man, it goes
Thursdays at 9.
We might have stumbled onto something
On the
here.
WB.
Yeah.
Why not make it a 2022?
Oh, my
Anyways,
God.
welcome
Netflix
to the
series.
Jim
show, everybody.
Belushi would have been in that movie.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
Not John, but Jim.
Yeah, welcome to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Thrilling win for the Guardians last night. If you went to bed early,
a
I'm
loser.
sorry. It was just an incredible finish.
gonna headbutt everyone here.
We'll talk about that later in the program. But we've
Terry
got to
Francona,
start.
by the way, out for the rest of the year because he got killed by Josh Naylor.
You know, I thought it was funny that he put the helmet on. He knew it was coming.
Oh, my God.
He had the helmet
That's
on.
what a good manager he is, and how well he knows his players. He's like, oh boy, here he comes.
This guy's
Naylor's a
looking for a
psychopath.
headbutt. After it happened, he stared down for about 3 seconds. I think he needed a standing 8 count.
Yep, absolutely.
Because he was definitely dinged.
Yeah, he got Nailered real hard.
I mean, Naylor's 10 cheeseburgers away from being, what's his name, Danny Shelton. So,
see-
I mean, he's getting close.
that jersey
That's
exploded.
dangerous.
That jersey exploded.
Hey, listen, he can eat as many cheeseburgers
Yeah,
as he
he's-
wants.
Put
If
him
he
away,
hits
brother.
like that
And
in the
opposite
clutch,
field.
it was
Yep.
unreal.
I don't know why I'm doing
and he
this
said
when I'm
after the
bunting.
game, which I thought was incredible, he said,
Yeah.
yeah, I was trying to hit a home run.
Yep.
They never say that.
No, I know.
I was
I
trying
know.
to put the bat on the ball and tie the game.
Was that
No.
the Rajay Davis spot? I mean, it was not
Pretty
that
close.
far.
I
Right?
don't
Yeah,
care.
pretty close.
Keep eating those cheeseburgers, limp around the bases
Yeah.
like Boris Karloff. I don't care.
I don't care either because it was
Fall
fun to
down
watch.
at first base when
Who
you try to
cares?
catch
And
the
now
ball.
they're 2 games
Hit
out
it.
of first. They
Huge.
finished the 5-game series with the Twins
Yeah.
today.
And they could win the series
If they
after this. Yeah.
take 3 of 5, that's a victory, and
Yeah.
they move to just a game out.
It was exciting.
With the Yankees coming to town.
Yeah,
that was a lot of
there's
fun.
All right, let's talk about the latest Deshaun Watson news. Yesterday was day 2. I thought, for my money, the biggest news I heard, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, was Mary Kay Cabot's report for Cleveland.com.
Yeah.
That not just that the league was refuting the 6 to 8 game story that we heard from the Associated Press the day before. In her first line of the story, she just said the report from the AP was wrong. She was pretty strong with her language. So she says that she has a league source telling her that they are not likely to accept a 6 to 8 game suspension if that's what Sue Robinson's ruling is. And it appears at this point, guys, that there's a leak, literally, in the NFL ranks. There's at least dissension in the ranks. You've got dueling leakers.
Yeah.
One leaking one thing and another leaking a completely different story. And my first take on this was there's dissension at the NFL. Am I reading this wrong?
No, it's got to be right because, first of all, the AP is as an incredible source as it's going to be, right? Like, the AP just doesn't throw things out there haphazardly. Mary Kay is also, like, she's not in the business of throwing people under the bus. So she's not gonna say that's untrue unless she has a locked-in source.
They're both reporting their sources, but
Yes.
it's impossible for both of these stories to be true.
Right. So obviously, I would think there's two, as you say, there's two sources from the league, not just one from Watson and one from the league, that are giving different information, either purposely or not, to two different
What does
reporters.
it say to you guys that there could be disagreement at the league level?
I mean, look at the disagreement in Cleveland and on this panel
everywhere.
about the ethical ramifications of what we're going through. I'm sure a lot of people are doing a lot of soul searching, and they don't operate as a monolith, so it makes perfect sense that it would be. I mean, we just had the same thing happen in the Supreme Court, and stuff's pretty tight there. We had a leaked thing that and nobody knows where that came from.
Unprecedented.
And it was also motivated probably by somebody's personal ethics.
Sure.
Because we're human beings. These aren't robots in this office.
Jason, you're in the weeds as a reporter, and you rely on sources. What's your take on this?
Every source we have has an agenda of some sort, and that's sort of rule number one is, okay, why are you telling me what you're telling me? What is the benefit to you? So that's step one. And I'm not saying one's right and what's wrong. I'm just saying, like, we enter this knowing there's agendas all around here. I'm a little bit surprised at how much information has been out there, especially from the league level, because normally it's pretty tight-lipped. You know, we don't really hear a lot normally what the NFL's thinking in advance of decisions like this. So I'm just a little bit surprised by that. And Deshaun's camp, for the most part, has been pretty buttoned up. And they really haven't said a whole lot since this whole thing started. So I'm at the point now, I know we have to parcel this out. We have to dissect everything. But I was on the other day and said, I'm just ready for this to be over. And I stand by it. Like, I'm reserving judgment at this point as much as possible until we get to the finish line and see how this goes. We've said everything we can say on it. And at this point, we just need a ruling. And I know they're still going through the process, and they're still working that process. There's no guarantee it's over today. You know, we entered this Tuesday saying, when is this going to end? Is this going to go on another day? And then it goes on.
There's reports that it could go to Thursday.
Right. Look at Josina Anderson, who was just on with us the other day. I know we have the tweet that she put up yesterday. After the second day of Deshaun Watson's hearing, a league source reminds that Sue Robinson won't deliver a ruling on the spot. The hearings will finish. Then there'll likely be post-hearing submissions and then a decision. Source not currently expecting hearing to last past this week. But if Josina's right, and obviously we know she's as plugged in as anybody, I don't think we're going to hear anything by Friday.
No, and that was kind of the unofficial timetable.
That's
was
what we
the
thought.
late Friday news dump going into the fourth weekend, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe today is the day that they have to have
it is discovery in the civil hearing, in the civil cases. Yes.
And if you just look at the fact that, I mean, how many days did Deshaun meet with the NFL for? There's a lot to cover here, right?
Yeah.
Like that's pretty evident. Even if you are parsing this down to just the 5 cases, there's a lot of information that they have to wade through. And I think you're seeing that play out now in real time, just how long it's taken to work through this.
G. Bush?
Hey, man, this right here, this is why you should be able to talk politics, man. There is a lot of political jousting here. One of the good books that I actually did read, I don't know why I should admit this, but The Art of the Deal, right? Right?
Yep.
So, you know, the author of that talks about chaos, right? Chaos destroys a lot of different things because you don't know what to believe. You got conflicting interests. You got conflicting sources. And what happens is we get this fatigue. And it happens all the time. Like, you know, we talked about it with Donald Trump. He used to do so many different things, and the media used to just spin out in circles. They didn't know whether to report on it. They didn't know whether to ignore it.
Right.
When there's so much stuff in the media, you get to a point where Jason just said, I'm fatigued.
Yeah.
He's a writer.
And that's what we can all agree on.
Right.
We're all done with this.
Yeah.
And he writes for a living. If he writes for a living and he's fatigued, What do you think the common person that's going to be up in arms is going to think? They're not even going to notice it.
Quick point, Art of the Deal was ghostwritten. It wasn't written by him. It was written by a guy named Tony Schwartz. Just wanted to give him no credit.
That's keeping them honest, right?
Also, one tidbit on the fatigue factor. So we throw this in on our Channel 3 show at 5. And we have a Facebook page where a lot of the viewers will hit us up. Every time we do a Deshaun Watson story, we are inundated with sick of hearing about it, sick of hearing about it. However, the one interesting thing about the show that we're doing here is because it's on YouTube, at least the live viewers on YouTube, we can tell exactly how many viewers we have at any time.
You beautiful little sickies.
Whether we like it or not, and we don't, I'll speak for all of us. After every show, when they come in and they give us the breakdown of the viewers, they're like, yeah, we had this many for that, and then we went into Watson and we shot up to a record number of viewers. That's right. And it's been that way every day.
Yep.
So
I'm sick of this. I'm sick of reading.
But I can't stop watching. It's like a train wreck.
Yep.
It really is like the train wreck that we can't help but look at.
You know what's the weird angle of this? G brings up the fact that, like what Jason said, I just think it's interesting. Like, we all feel almost aggrieved that we have to keep talking about it, thinking about it. The reality is, the people, like, for the women and for Deshaun Watson, this is a huge deal.
It's their life.
This is their lives.
Yeah. Yep.
And the rest of us who really, like, it's only about football for us, really. We're all like, oh, my God.
Here we go
We have to hear about, like, this is their lives. These women and this guy.
In the balance here.
Right?
A lot
so for them, it's a big deal. For us, it's like, enough already. It's weird.
All right, and you know what? Enough already. We've done 10 minutes on it. It's time to move on. And the reason I say it's time to move on is because yesterday we sort of stumbled upon this. You wanted to talk about it on Tuesday, and we touched on it. And we said we'll come back to it tomorrow, which we did, but we did at like 12:50.
Yeah.
And the lid blew off the studio because there was a lot of dissension on this topic. And it's basically grade the trade. And I know it's impossible to do that because the trade, he hasn't played one down for the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah.
So knowing what we know now, that he's going to miss time, let's make this a discussion. McNuggets, I think we put a poll question up because we wanted to, quite frankly, I might be surprised. Our viewers and Browns fans might say, no, I'm cool with it if we don't win a Super Bowl. I was just speaking on, from my end, this trade is not a success unless the Browns win a Super Bowl with Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
How did we ask the question and what were the results?
So let's do what the internet is saying first, and then we'll get your guys' responses.
Yeah.
So, as always, when we ask the internet a question, it is brought to us by PCC Airfoils. Looking for a job with career advancement and great benefits? PCC Airfoils is a leading manufacturer in Northeast Ohio. All locations of PCC Airfoils in Eastlake, Mentor, Wickliffe, and Minerva are hiring for all positions starting at $18 and up.
That's a
Plus,
good
get a full
living.
benefit package, paid time off, and a signing bonus. Apply online at precast.com/careers. To learn more, Steve, let's pull up 29 here real quick.
By the way, 6
29.
weeks later, every time Mike says Minerva, it still sounds like he's not sure he's saying it right.
No, I'm confident.
He owns it now.
I am confident.
After about a week, he was walking through the hall.
Yeah.
And then I think he owns it.
Coming to Minerva.
All right, so
Why
this is
are
what
you
we
using that
asked the
Minerva?
internet yesterday in response to Jay's question. If the Browns don't win a Super Bowl with Deshaun Watson, will you look at this trade as a failure?
Okay,
so Steve,
that's a different question.
let's cut to the responses, and then we're going to
There's
let you
5
guys
different ways you can word it.
define.
Depends on what
you
water
think
you want them to
success
drink.
is. Yes.
You know?
So we asked for a poll first, and we got over 500 votes. I had to cut this before the voting ended, or it'd be during the show. And yes, most people agree that the trade would be a failure if the Browns do
Bull, how would
not
you have
win a
written the
Super
question?
Bowl. Bull, before you answer, we got 2 more internet responses.
Okay.
Because PCC asked for 4 today, we're going to give them 4. Let's cut to the next one, Steve. This is from Dan Jensen. Yes, it'd be a failure, but to be fair, I'd be disappointed if this core group doesn't go to a Super Bowl, regardless of who's playing quarterback. And cut one more, Steve. This is from Strong Cleve fan. No, if that's the case, then every trade for the past 40 years that didn't lead to a Super Bowl was a bad trade. Becoming relevant and a contender for years is a big step. For now, Baker fans still ride with one playoff
That's
win.
horrible logic. That's horrible. every trade they made over the last 40 years would be a failure because they didn't win a Super Bowl. They've never made a trade even remotely this big.
It is bad logic. I do agree with the last part of what he said about the Baker one win.
I do too.
But the rest of that is completely
The rest of it is like,
yes.
okay, they've made trades and did win Super Bowls before. What makes this one any different? Well, let me count the ways.
What part did you agree with? Say that again.
The very last line. Can you put that back up? At the end of his tweet, it saved a little face for me because I actually said, okay, I can sort of see his point on that. But
Baker,
he lost
Baker
me.
fans are living on
the one playoff.
Right.
Yeah, I get it.
Here it is.
But he
Baker
lost
still
me
ride
with the no that every trade over the last 40 years is a bad trade. That's just bad logic.
Now, again, depending on how you word it, and I don't know like the best way to word it because yesterday I was saying, well, is this trade a disaster if the Browns don't win a Super Bowl?
Failure, disaster, they're pretty close.
Yeah. I just don't know. Like, again, as I said yesterday, if the Browns don't win the Super Bowl, when you have a great quarterback, Deshaun Watson is a great quarterback.
Yep.
Okay?
He was when we last saw him.
To me, when we last saw him, it was only a year ago. He's a young guy. I'm going to assume he still is.
Sure.
Okay?
Right.
If he's not, then the trade's a disaster.
Right.
To me, there are, I think there are 7 great quarterbacks in the NFL, in my opinion. Okay? 5 of them are in the AFC. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Deshaun Watson, and then Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady. To me, there are 7 great quarterbacks, elite quarterbacks. Yeah. There's some other good players, some other really good quarterbacks, but there's 7 elite quarterbacks in my mind. You could disagree, agree. To me, there's a line of demarcation.
That's 25% of the quarterbacks. That's a large number to be elite.
That's how I look at it.
That's the top 25%.
That's fine. I think in other years there's not that many. In this particular year, right now, we have a higher percentage of elite quarterbacks than we would most years. I see it that way.
Okay.
If you have one of those 7 quarterbacks, the teams that have those 7 quarterbacks, if you don't win a Super Bowl while they are there, now the Buccaneers have won one with Brady. It's been a while, but the Packers won one with Rodgers. The Chiefs have won one with with Mahomes.
Right.
For the other 4, the Bengals, the Browns, the
Ravens,
the Ravens, and the Bills.
Yeah.
Not the Ravens.
No.
The Bills and the Chargers.
Yeah, Bills and Chargers.
Bengals, Browns, Bills, Chargers. If those 4 teams do not win a Super Bowl with their current quarterback, it will be a disappointment. There's no doubt about it. But I wouldn't call their act like. But it's not the trade is not a bad.
I see where you're going with that.
I
see where you're going with that,
yeah.
and that makes sense to me too.
Yeah.
But the other 3 that you're putting in this category with the Browns, didn't give up what the Browns gave up to get that player.
But if you're right, and that is a difference. But ultimately, it comes down to: do you think you could win a Super Bowl with the guy you had? And those teams drafted a player because they didn't think they did, and they didn't.
Right.
If you are someone who believes you could win a Super Bowl with Baker Mayfield, then I get it. This trade is bad if you don't win a Super Bowl.
Right.
But if you thought you couldn't win a Super Bowl with Baker, and I do not believe the Browns could win a Super Bowl with Baker, not in this AFC and not in this NFL.
Then you have to make a move.
Then you had to go get a quarterback.
Right.
So I wouldn't call the trade a bad trade unless he ends up in jail or he's not as good a quarterback as we thought.
Right.
Let's say they win 2 playoff games over the next 5 years. That's a disaster.
I think we've established where we are.
Yes.
In that. I want to hear from the 3 in the middle.
Yes. Let's go 3 in the middle.
I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on this.
I kind of liken this a little bit. Obviously, I have a lot of experience from when LeBron came back, and everyone thought as soon as LeBron came back, championship or bust. That was different because it's the NBA, and one player has so much more.
Makes
of an
a
impact.
huge difference.
I tend to lean with Bull on this one, only because it's so hard to win a Super Bowl in the NFL, and you got to have a quarterback to do it. So they pushed all their chips in on the guy that was available. And I've said before, the last time a quarterback of his stature became available in a trade in the prime of his career was Fran Tarkenton 60 years ago. These guys don't become available.
Right.
And so you have to do whatever it takes to go get them when they do. And the Browns did that, and they held their nose the whole time, and it's disgusted the rest of the league with the contract that he's got and the picks that they gave up. I got it. But they're in the game now. They got a chip in the chair at the final table because of the quarterback that they have running the offense. But I can't sit here and say for a franchise that has never won a Super Bowl, never even played for a Super Bowl, well, they got to win one or this trade's a disaster. I disagree with that. If they don't make a Super Bowl, it's going to be a disappointment. It's not going to be a disaster. there's a difference to me in disappointment and disaster. They're in the game now.
And you were pretty hard on you said if they lose him just for this year.
The trade's a disaster.
I think you said disaster.
I did. If he doesn't play this year, it's a disaster because they're built to go right now.
For this year, though.
I think it's a disaster, period, because you just lost another year of Myles Garrett.
So there is a scenario then that this trade is a disaster.
If he doesn't play, I think it's an absolute disaster. If he's out for the year, I think this is a disaster because of the picks that they gave up. Now suddenly that pick that they gave up could be, at the time of the trade, you're making the trade, you're thinking, well, all right, that pick's going to be, I don't know, 25, 26,
Jason, do you
27?
think there was any chance they were going to win a Super Bowl this year with Baker Mayfield?
No.
So then the trade's not a disaster. Then I can't see it as a disaster because you're trying to win the Super Bowl.
Of course. But
and if you get Deshaun Watson,
you can't win a Super Bowl though if Deshaun's not playing.
Agreed, totally.
And they made
you'd
the
have
trade.
a better chance with Baker than Jacoby Brissett. We all agree. But ultimately, there's no way the Browns are winning a Super Bowl this year with Baker Mayfield. I guess you never know for sure. But
I would say no way.
I think most of us would agree it's highly unlikely they would have won a Super Bowl with Baker.
When we last saw him healthy,
right.
They were a fourth down stop from playing in the AFC Championship.
Yeah, but that's a long way from winning a Super Bowl. Joe Burrow wasn't a factor then.
It is, but
yeah.
Bull, when you completely dismiss, like there's no way they're going to win a Super Bowl, the talent is better on this team now than it was 2 years ago.
But the talent on other teams
Baker,
are better too.
If you have Baker completely healthy again, and you get him back to that 2020 Baker,
right.
which we don't know that's ever going to happen.
But Jay, how many quarterbacks of Baker's level have won a Super Bowl from the AFC, have gotten to the Super Bowl from the AFC, have won a Super Bowl from the AFC?
Let's be clear.
Recently, it hasn't happened.
Let's be clear.
No, if you list the Super Bowl winners recently, they're all great quarterbacks.
Come on, he's thrown the most picks since he's been here.
That's true.
Like in the 1 year,
technically second in picks, first in turnovers.
Okay, he came out 1 year and said, "I wasn't ready to play. I thought it was going to be easy." What quarterback says that? Who says that?
He didn't exactly say I wasn't ready to play.
He said,
I thought it would be easy. He said, I thought it. I didn't realize it would be this tough.
Listen, he came out and was not ready to go in 2019. He wasn't in the greatest shape.
Yes.
Then he came back. And I'm going to tell you what, if you got a number one receiver, I tell you what, bro, it's your job to make it work. You're the quarterback. Figure it out, Baker. I'm looking at his body of work. It's not so much about his body of work. It's about the Deshaun Watson move. People talk about 3 first-round draft picks. The Browns ain't drafted good ever. We can't be chalking up first-round picks like they hitting. Cam Irving and Danny Shelton. Come on now.
Don't do that to us.
Let's not act like.
Be a longer list.
Please don't bring that up.
I could give you all the guys that they swung and missed on. When you swung it, you passed on Deshaun Watson first, right? This is your payment. You passed on him. You got to pay a premium to cover up for that mistake. You missed once. You got to come back and do it.
You're forgetting the fact that their win-loss records are, and I know that Baker's had better talent, but it hasn't been wildly better talent. And their win-loss percentage is almost identical.
It has.
It's not like we're talking about Tom Brady and Trent Dilfer here.
It's misleading, in my opinion, for 2 reasons. Number one, Deshaun Watson had 3 successful seasons and went to the playoffs, 2 out of 3 years?
Yes.
His first 3 years in the league.
And won how many playoff games?
He won 1.
Okay.
1. He had a terrible offensive line. Baker's had an excellent offensive line the last 2 years. He had no running game the entire time he was in Houston.
Had the best running game.
Right. Baker's had the best running game.
Even though the team doesn't seem to know how to use them properly. Yeah.
Well,
they're underutilized.
I'd say the Browns used their running game better than the Texans do, who had no running game at all.
Yeah, that's impossible for them not to.
The Texans had a terrible defense. The one bad year, the only under 500 year Deshaun Watson had.
Didn't he have a 3-13?
Yeah, that was his last year.
And he threw for like 5,000
Can you name a good player he played with? A single player?
Listen, I watched Tom Brady win Super Bowls with okay talent.
I mean, come on.
He didn't have okay talent.
If you look back at
the greatest coach in the history of the game.
All I'm
he
saying
had no talent around him.
I saw Aaron Rodgers win a Super Bowl. Where are the Hall of Famers that he played with on that team? Great quarterbacks will take a 3-13 and at least make it look good.
And Watson deserves some blame for 3-13. There's no doubt.
Yeah,
but
he deserves a lot of blame.
One of the worst collections of talent around.
Did you just hear what he said? He said he takes great talent and makes some of it. He had Odell Beckham Jr. and Jarvis Landry and couldn't do nothing
and
with
made them worse.
Listen. With those players, They made the playoffs and won a playoff game. Don't say they did nothing with it. 3-13 is doing nothing with it.
He won one playoff
game.
Okay, and how many did Deshaun win?
He won one playoff game.
And what's their career record?
And whose numbers is better?
And you're making it seem like it's a Mercedes and a pinup.
Oh, it is.
Well,
it is.
Oh,
it is. Mercedes, that's a Maybach right here.
Jay, is there
Baker
any
Mayfield
team in the
is
league that would take Baker over
He's at least
Deshaun Watson?
a Sonata.
No.
So
He's a Honda.
That's it.
He's a
But
Honda.
not a Pinto.
But Bull, what I'm saying is, when numbers are so fascinating,
Watson's got a lot to prove in the playoffs. You're right. He's got a lot to prove. There's no doubt about it.
He absolutely
He's got to prove
does.
in the playoffs.
And so my point in all of this, guys, and I still want to hear from the two of you. I think I know where G. Bush is.
I feel like you've already screamed it all, but
what is it? Is it a failure or is it a success if they don't win a Super Bowl?
the thing is, it's entirely subjective, and it depends on what you value as a fan. That's
What do you
really
value?
What comes down
That's
to.
what I want to know.
Well, I mean, I believe it or not, I have a nuanced stance on this. It's all over the place. I see value in that. I see value in that first commenter's comment where he was talking about competitiveness for this fan base in particular is held in higher regard than in most fan bases because of what we've been through.
Yeah.
So I understand like there's something just to being competitive. Just winning the Super Bowl, like who the hell are we at this point to just be like, it's Super Bowl or bust for these Browns fans? Like, let's get some consistent winning in here to begin with. So I understand the perspective of somebody who just says, just being competitive and watching good football compared to what we've been through over the last 20 years is, to some people, enough. They just want to get excited on Sunday to have the potential to do something. If everything falls the right way, if some people get hot, if some other people in different teams get injured, maybe there's still possibility there, even for this team to exceed expectations, and we saw that with that playoff win a couple of years ago. Then you've got the moral question. I mean, you have to think about what a weird question this is. Really, is that you can't remove the ethics from this. And if you say to yourself, winning a Super Bowl that makes this trade worth it ethically, but if we come up short, then ethically this was a bad choice.
Yeah,
well, your
no,
ethics
you can't have
suck.
it both ways. Yeah, you can't have it both ways.
You know what I mean?
It's no better a trade in my view ethically.
But you have to remove, if we're just removing ethics from the equation and just looking at it as a football question, then I don't think it's a waste of.
I don't think. But honestly,
if this guy comes in here, even if he doesn't play this year, and we have him for another 4 or 5 years, and we are playing competitive football and going into the playoffs, and I get to watch playoff football for that long, I know that
you're okay with that.
I'm okay with that.
Okay,
I'm not.
The one thing I would say is if you take ethics out of the trade, I can't.
Right.
And in large part, if you're telling me that they gave up 3 first-round draft choices and gave up $230 million guaranteed to Patrick Mahomes, I don't even think about it. I don't even think about it.
So, but how ridiculous
but you're
is
asking me to remove the elephant in the room and then judge the trade, and I can't do that.
I totally get that, and I'm not. But how ridiculous is the stance to say? Imagine being somebody who defended this ethically through the whole thing and just said, it'll be worth it. And then they win the Super Bowl. They're not like, see, we told you, we were right. It was the right move. No, I was coming at it from an ethical perspective. So regardless of whether you never play a game or don't win, I just can't take the
elephant out of the room.
By the way, clarification, couple things. The Texans were 4-12 in 2020, not 3-13.
Oh, there's a huge difference. No, there's a huge difference.
It's a fact.
Yeah.
Number 2, Watson, again, not a huge difference, but 3 games over 500 in his career. Baker, 1 game under 500 in career.
Yeah.
Baker's been under 500 in 3 of his 4 seasons.
Both of those are incredibly mediocre to me.
The record's mediocre.
They're incredibly mediocre.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing, Jay.
He's a rookie in the first year. In the 4th year, he plays half the game.
They both
the
played 4 years.
Yeah.
So, their records are mediocre. And if you just look at record, which is not always a great indicator for how good an individual player is, that's fine.
One.
But look, just watching the 2 guys play.
Facts.
It's not great. I can give you all the stats, the touchdowns, the completion percentage, the turnovers, where Deshaun Watson destroys
It's like having
Baker.
a great fantasy quarterback but losing all the time.
No, but he's not losing all the time. He lost 1 season. He had 1 bad season. He won double-digit games in 2 of his 3 full years. So he's not losing all the time. He had 1
Baker
losing
damn
season.
near did that.
Here's a big reason why the Browns felt they needed to move on. I looked this up late in the year, and I don't have Deshaun's numbers because I wrote this obviously well before the trade.
Right.
Baker is 41st in fourth quarters throughout his career. So let's dismiss, and that's why I said we made such a big deal about the shoulder injury. I was so sick of talking. I was as sick about talking about the shoulder injury as I am talking about Deshaun Watson right now. We made so big of a deal about it. Yes, he was playing hurt. Quarterbacks play hurt all the time. Mayfield was 41st in fourth quarters throughout his career, wedged between Jameis Winston and Josh Rosen. His 18 career interceptions in fourth quarters are the second most in the NFL since 2018.
Do we know? Does anybody know where Watson is in the fourth quarter?
I can find that. I mean, I would need some time.
Significantly better than that.
I'm sure it's significant.
I asked that because I want to know.
So I want
to know if that's the reason they made the trade.
I was talking to somebody.
Then I want Watson to be like top 5.
I was talking to somebody with the Browns after the trade, and basically they said, listen. Like they were watching film of Deshaun, and there was a series his last year there where the Texans had the ball, and I'm paraphrasing here. The Texans had the ball on like the 30, 35-yard line. They were down right before the half, and Deshaun went boom, 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 touchdown. In like 30 seconds, score.
Baker's in fourth quarter spots.
Baker was not doing that.
Baker's record, like down a score with the ball in the fourth quarter, is hideous.
Terrible.
The only time he's ever come through big in that spot was that crazy game against the Bengals.
What
2
you
years
guys
ago.
are. In my view, what you're doing is saying that Baker was terrible, so we had to get someone.
No, Baker
and
was
what
terrible.
I'm saying is, I get the fact you want to upgrade the most important position on the team, but you gave the all-time richest contract and 3 draft picks away for a guy with ethical baggage that's won 1 playoff game and is about 500 for his career. And if you guys are telling me he's top 5, okay, he's top 5. I'm just saying, and the fans, I think, are agreeing with me, on a 2-to-1 basis, that it's got to end in a Super Bowl.
And the reason you had to do that is because of what I just said. It's been 60 years since a quarterback of his caliber has become available in the prime of his career. They don't become available. This is the price you have to pay.
It's the price of admission to get on the ride. You've been in a dungeon. You watched Joe Burrow do it in 2 years. We tired of talking about somebody 4 years to give them continuity. He did it in 2 years with a rookie receiver.
So he better be, he better be all-time great. He better win the Super Bowl.
Yes. He's going to be all-time great. If they end up, he's got to be all-time great. And they got to be
to be all-time great, he's got to win a ring.
Okay.
You'll give me that.
Again, yes, it'll be a huge disappointment if he doesn't win a ring. Of course.
Right. Where's D'Qwell at?
But at least
D'Qwell's on.
D'Qwell, bring D'Qwell in.
What's up?
At least the Browns are in a situation now where they have a quarterback. You'll be disappointed if he doesn't win a Super Bowl.
Oh, he got
you
that
could
cat
not
bird.
have those expectations with Baker
He
Mayfield.
got the bird's eye seat right now.
That's
He's a different camera today.
Yeah, he's CEO D'Qwell today.
What boardroom are you in?
D'Qwell, can the trade be a success if the Browns don't win a Super Bowl? Under what scenario does that happen?
I mean, I kind of agree with you, Jay, on this. I think when you give up what you've given up, I mean, and you look at, the impact you want him to have, you talk about him being elite. I think he's elite when he was playing. I think he could change the dynamic of this franchise. There's a reason I think Andrew Berry in front office decided to go this route, even with all the baggage that he has that we talk about, to exhaustion. Mm-hmm. At the end, I think about this, right? If you're the New England Patriots and you make this trade and you give up what you've given up, knowing that you had a tremendous amount of success the last 20 years, how would you judge if you give up three first-round draft picks and you have this guy and you don't win a Super Bowl? I think that would constitute as a disappointment. I think in this case, he has to win a Super Bowl, not in year 1, year 2. Understand things have to gel and you have to work together for some years, but I think he's that elite. I think this group, I think this team has it has what it needs to win a Super Bowl. I think he's the missing link. So in my opinion, yes, if there isn't a Super Bowl in the near future with this guy, I think it ultimately is a disappointment. However, as a Browns fan, because let's face it, we hadn't been to the playoffs other than 2020 in 2 decades. So it will be an upgrade because we're winning games, you're perennial contenders. But at the end, when all things are considered, when you judge his impact, when you judge his team, when you judge the players he's playing alongside, there's Super Bowl or there's disappointment. However, in the same breath, you still are able to, again, as a Browns fan, it'll be great to win a ton of games and win playoff games and all that. But in the end, as a player, you want to win Super Bowls, and that's
what
why
it's all about.
Yeah,
that's what it's all about.
I agree. There's no doubt. Listen, to me, if you're a Bills fan right now, you're a Browns fan right now, you're a Bengals fan right now, you're a Chiefs fan right now, You're a Chargers fan right now with Herbert. If you don't win a Super Bowl with these guys, and I know Mahomes has won one already, but they still feel like they got to win another. It's a disappointment. I get it. But the Browns, as you know better than anybody, and you just said, have been a trash franchise basically since the 80s. They've done no winning.
So we should be good with the playoffs.
No. Here's what I'm saying. If Deshaun Watson is consistently going deep in the playoffs, if he gets let's say 6 years from now.
Let's say they're the Bills and they lose 4 in a row.
You're going to say it was a bad trade? That's crazy.
Yeah, ask the Bills how they feel.
Yeah, they're disappointed they didn't win, but you wouldn't say it was a bad trade because here's the bottom line. In the last 20 years, Deshaun Watson, would we all agree that Deshaun Watson is elite level quarterback? Does anybody disagree with that?
Yes.
Okay. Is Baker Mayfield an elite level quarterback?
No.
Anybody think he is?
Nope.
Okay. You know how many quarterbacks have represented the AFC in the Super Bowl in the last 20 years that was not elite? One. Joe Flacco, 1 year.
Because you had Tom Brady in there forever.
Okay, but he didn't go every year. I know he went a lot, but
he went a lot.
I'm talking 20 years.
What do you, D'Qwell, we talked about this a minute ago. What's your definition of elite? What percentage do you have to be in to be considered elite? Because
I'm saying 7 guys right now.
The boundaries of elite don't meet your definition of elite. Doesn't match my definition. Not that there's one that's right or wrong, but there's 32 teams. If you want to go top 10% is elite, that means the best 3 quarterbacks in the NFL can be titled elite. What's your number of guys that can be categorized as elite?
Yeah, that's a tough one because I feel like when you attach the elite tag to anyone, that means you be the. It's such a subjective. Elite to me is winning the Super Bowl. That's when I say, hey, these guys have played in the Super Bowl. You've reached the pinnacle. Whether you've won or lost, those guys are elite. And again, the NFL has changed in the past probably a decade or so because of the way the game is played. And now this huge bowl or pot of quarterbacks that we're saying that are elite. You have the Herberts, you have the Allens, you have Deshaun Watson for that matter. You have Patrick Mahomes. You have at least 7 guys.
We're
that
not
are
putting
up
Nick
there.
Foles in the elite conversation, are we?
No, definitely not.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
But you have to separate. It can't be 10 or 15 guys that are elite in the National Football League because not all those guys are winning like crazy and winning Super Bowls. You have, in my opinion, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady is still playing at elite level, and Patrick Mahomes. Everyone else is a second tier. Those guys are at the top of their game.
Very fair. I do.
And you have young guys, Josh Allen's of the world, the guy from
Herbert is in there.
Yeah,
Herbert,
based
Justin
on that, you
Herbert.
probably put Burrow, Allen, Herbert.
But that can be a second tier. So you've got elite, then you've got whatever you
and
want to
Watson,
label
those
it
4
below
would
that.
be in tier 2. Fine. You want to separate it? That's fine. I got no problem with that.
I look at it as this. Listen, we're getting too reductive here.
Yeah,
right?
you're right.
We're
I
getting a
agree with
little
that.
too reductive. We talk about tiers and quarterbacks and
Well,
splitting
elite
hair.
elite's a specific term.
I get elite is a specific term, but you got different people that have different elite skill sets. If Lamar Jackson is on, you not winning. If Patrick Mahomes is slinging that day, you not winning. If Joe Burrow get the ball last and he got it going that day, see, you got to look at it. It's a nuance to the game because not only are all those guys talented, it has a lot to do with their independent skill sets. It also has to do with the surrounding character, surrounding parts.
Right.
If you get Deshaun Watson and he go to a Super Bowl and he go 25 or 28 for 350 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, and we get a pass interference call on the goal line, you can't say
it's a bad trade.
How about this as a definition of elite?
Yeah.
A guy. So when Brady goes from the Patriots, who made the playoffs his last year there, to the Buccaneers, a team that missed the playoffs before he arrived, and takes them to a Super Bowl win, that to me is elite.
That's fine. We don't listen.
Everybody around you got better, and you won the ultimate prize.
Ultimately, to cement yourself as elite, you got to win a Super Bowl. I think you have to be an elite talent and cement the Super Bowl. But
Dan Marino was
right.
an elite talent.
I mean, that's fair.
I was thinking that
talent.
Jim
Dan
Kelly.
Marino is one of the outliers.
But wait a
he
second.
went I think his first or second
I got to
year
ask
in the
D'Qwell
league,
about this.
and
You
never
mentioned-
got back.
You mentioned Lamar Jackson. Mikey McNuggets, D'Qwell. I was talking about Lamar Jackson before the show. He goes, Lamar Jackson is trash.
What?
He called
Listen,
him
hold
trash.
on. I did
You
say
can't
that.
use trash
He backtracked.
and Lamar
No,
Jackson
I
in
did
the
say
same
that.
sentence.
trash?
No, I said that and then I retracted. I admit there was too. No.
He's been around bull too long.
No.
He's
Listen,
been around
I'll
bull
defend
too
myself.
long.
I don't think he's a top 10 quarterback in the NFL, but he's not trash. I did go over. I overused the word trash. Bull has
good that he
rubbed
can
off on
admit
me.
that.
It's the first time in
big
any
man.
I had to crush
conversation
him.
He had no choice.
someone
but
has
still
used
gonna
a
be
stronger
admitted
verbiage than Bull. So hand up. But he's not a top 10 quarterback.
Well, if you go on what we've seen last,
Yes.
and this is a what have you done for me lately league, obviously. And okay, he was hurt, but we're not allowed to say guys are hurt. So he was not good last year.
He
guys.
wasn't.
No.
He
That's true.
was not
This
good.
brings up another thing.
It doesn't mean he's trash.
No, it's certainly
He's the
not
8th
trash.
best quarterback in the AFC. The 8th best quarterback in his own
I
conference.
got him
Well,
7.
that's not saying much
I got him
because
7.
This is
There's
another thing
stuff.
that determines whether something's elite or not that is outside of your hands, and that's external factors. I mean, the fact that we all praise Baker for winning that playoff game, and he did, but remember the conditions. He did that against a banged-up Ben Roethlisberger.
An awful
but it still
Steelers
counted-
team. At the
and an
end of
awful
his
Steelers
run,
team.
too.
At the very end of his run, but to us that still counts as a playoff. But that was an external factor that made him, in our minds and in our memories now, a better quarterback because of that playoff win. And there's
Sure.
stuff like that that's just out of your control that you don't. You
and
gotta
the
take
guys
into
you're playing
consideration.
with too.
Yeah.
I mean, your roster has a lot
Yeah.
to do with it.
And
I think an elite quarterback is going to take an okay roster and make them better.
And let me
Make them
ask you
great.
this question, D'Qwell. You know, if you playing with, you didn't play with a lot of quarterbacks. You knew you wasn't winning. you knew you wasn't winning going into that game. To me, I think elite is, can I win a Super Bowl with you?
That's right.
If
That's how I
I look
look
at
at
you, and it don't matter if you 5, 6, 2, 1, whatever.
Right.
If I can win a Super Bowl, if I can put you on the field, and I got to play Mahomes or Allen or Brady or King, do you give me a shot to win?
How
that
many
game?
quarterbacks can win a Super Bowl?
I think
right
10.
now in the NFL.
I think 10, at least 10.
I'll give you 15.
That's elite.
Right. You know
That's half.
the old.
That's half.
And
Bull,
I'm-
or
No, I don't agree.
G-Bush.
I don't agree with that.
I
I
don't
think it's
either.
10. I think it's 10.
I mean, we got to draw a
I
line
might agree
somewhere.
with 10, but I wouldn't put 10 as elite. But whatever. Now at this point, we're parsing
I
language.
think
Yeah.
we're getting too hung up.
Yeah.
Way
on
in the
We're hung
weeds.
up in the
We're
weeds.
getting-
Well, it is a sports talk show.
You're getting too hung up on the word elite because
It's all about getting hung up in the weeds.
Garrett, I was going right where you're going to go. Give me a quarterback who
Yeah.
you got the ball last. You're on your own 30 with 2.5 minutes to go, or 2 minutes.
You trust
or
him
minute
in a
and
big
half.
spot.
Yeah,
And
that you feel
trust
comfortable
him
with.
that you could go win that game.
Yeah,
Give me one of
and
those
by the
guys.
way,
That in the NFL, if I have one
Right.
of
That's
those
at least
guys,
half the league,
If
in my
I have a
view.
guy that I know, if I got the ball last, I can win the game.
Yeah.
I'm good. And the
Yeah.
Browns didn't
Yeah.
have that.
And
I
by
can
the way,
show you number
in
after number after
2020,
number.
on a terrible, terrible Texans team, Deshaun Watson had the best PFF grade in the fourth quarter, the most touchdowns, and the best completion percentage.
And what was their record?
And the most yards in the fourth. You
okay.
were asking
Now
about
that-
fourth quarter
now
stats.
listen,
no,
but
that's
I'm
not
gonna
fair.
tell you, no.
specifically asked about
Bull,
fourth quarter
when
stats.
teams are losing 12 games in a season,
Yeah.
they're down big,
Jay,
right?
I get it.
So you know what they're
asked
doing?
about fourth quarter stats.
I know,
You
but Bull, I'm going to
specifically
tell
asked.
you why in that 4-12 scenario,
Yeah.
he's seeing prevent defense
Okay,
after prevent
that's
defense.
fine.
He
Do you-
better be
Do
piling
you think
up
when
numbers.
they won the 11 and 12 games, the 2 years, the 2 and 3 years
Where was
before
he that year?
I'm sure he was great. I didn't look it up yet, but I'm guessing when
Take a
they
look.
won that many games. I'll take a look. I'm
Take
sure
a
they
look,
were great.
because you can't say,
All
well,
I
when
know
they
is
were
Baker
4 and
sucks
12,
when it matters.
he was money in the fourth quarter. Okay, they were down 28
Jay, I
and
got
lost
a
by
question for
14.
you, Jay.
That guy's money.
because the PFF grade factors all that in.
No, it doesn't.
It
The
certainly
PFF
does.
grade looks at, they don't look at the season when they're looking at individual game numbers.
D'Qwell, hang on. We'll
We'll
be
get
right
back
back
to you
to
in
you.
a second.
Yeah.
D'Qwell.
Go back to me.
When
Talk
these
to
two are
D'Qwell.
done, we'll be right back to you.
Talk to D'Qwell. I'll get you more fourth quarter.
I'm
Jay,
just
I got
glad
a question.
D'Qwell's on my side. That's
D'Qwell,
all.
if you want to book another sports show to be on at the same time as this one, so you can just look from to another camera,
No,
whenever
it's all
these guys
good.
are
I
going
love
at
it.
it, you're
Hey,
welcome to.
D'Qwell, let's ask you this. So I know you've been following what's going on with the Watson hearings. What's your take because 2 days ago the story was the league might accept a 6 to 8 game suspension. They were likely to accept that if that's what Sue Robinson ruled. Then yesterday it was reported from a beat reporter here, Mary Kay Cabot. She was reporting that an NFL source tells her they're not going to do that, that the AP report was wrong. What do you make of the conflicting leaks at the NFL level? They're clearly fractured there. What's your take on that?
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me because they've, that's why the NFLPA has a case against them if they want to, suspend Deshaun Watson for an entire year because there's no basis on what constitutes the discipline, that's handed down. So if I understand this correctly, they hired a third party, Sue Robertson, who is basically in charge of handing down her ruling, right?
Right.
And so at that moment, Deshaun Watson can appeal that ruling, and the NFL can say, you know what? If I don't like your ruling, I can still. Roger Goodell has the power to hand his own ruling and suspension. So this is
unless she rules no suspension is in order. Am I right, Jason?
Got it.
If she rules no suspension is in order, then it's over.
Well, that's the point I made to Justina the other day was, okay, listen, if Roger really wants a year, he's going to get a year because he can overrule whatever she comes up with as long as she gives some sort of suspension. And as we said the other day, the world will stop spinning if she comes back and says.
She's got to issue something.
Yeah, something's coming.
Yeah, she has to.
That would be hilarious, though. If she's just like, check it out.
We're done.
There was also a report yesterday that she's disappointed that we've heard so much about this case.
Yes.
And like a lot of judges will issue a gag order. They don't want either side talking about it. The fact that she's disappointed, the leaks are coming from the NFL.
Yeah.
So if she's really upset that the leaks are happening and she really wants to put the screws to the NFL, and this is the report I'm talking about, Albert Breer, one thing I heard definitively over the weekend, Sue L. Robinson wasn't happy how public some things have become. I think there is some concern with the league, and this is the big part, this thing could go the other way, meaning in favor of Deshaun Watson.
Hope.
Wouldn't that be something?
The same Deshaun Watson, by the way, who was third in fourth quarter touchdowns in both 2018 and 2019.
Petty LaBoule, come
He's bringing it back. He's bringing it back.
Now, in what number?
In 2018 and 2019, the 2 years he won double-digit games and went to the playoffs, he was third in touchdowns.
That's the number I'm looking for.
Third in touchdowns.
That I give credence to.
There you go.
The other one I give no credence to at all.
And by the way, in
Jay,
2019 when he was third, the only two guys ahead of him were those same garbage time quarterbacks.
Yeah, that's
So,
why
Jay,
I don't
can
look
I
at
ask
that.
you a
So he was
question?
really first in 2019.
D'Qwell, yes. I'm going to interrupt everyone
Sorry,
here.
D'Qwell,
D'Qwell,
go
ask
ahead.
your question, sir.
Yeah.
Jay, do you not think Deshaun Watson is elite when he was playing? I'm kind of confused a bit.
No, because my definition of elite is completely different than the panels, and maybe yours. Well, although you did say you're looking at guys that have won Super Bowl as elite.
Yeah.
For me to be elite, and you can use this on anybody on anything. If you call a baseball player an elite player, they're not just an all-star, they're an MVP caliber player.
That I agree with.
So what I'm looking for here, D'Qwell, from an elite quarterback is an MVP quality player that is consistently performing in the top 4. So, why 4 and not 3? I don't know. I give 2 in the AFC, 2 in the NFC. If I had to pick 2 guys in either conference, he's just not on my list. He's not. That doesn't mean he can't work his way into my list, and it's arbitrary. Like Jason said, everybody can have a different definition of elite. I just think that for me, elite means superior, hands down, you're superior over your peers.
There's no question that he's elite. Right?
Yeah, if it's, Skip Bayless always used to say this. If you have to ask if a guy is in the Hall of Fame, then he's not. It's not the Hall of Very Good. It's the Hall of Fame. And so my definition of elite is if you have to debate it, like I don't think there's any debate Brady is elite. I don't think there's any debate Rodgers is elite. So there's one in, there's.
I could debate Rodgers.
Well, you can if you'd like, but the MVPs don't lie.
I mean,
Most
the MVPs
importantly,
don't lie.
there's no debate that I am an elite sports talk show host. So I'm going to ask D'Qwell a question. Okay. Let's go. Nobody's debating that. How I'm not in the Brockport College Hall of Fame.
You're in the Hall of Very Good.
Ridiculous. For crying out loud.
Ask your question.
D'Qwell, I don't know what question I'm going to ask. No. If Deshaun Watson plays 8, let's say it ends up being 8 games, would you, now if he misses the whole season, there's a decent chance the Browns might go out there and try to get another quarterback, at least to compete with Jacoby. But if he misses 8 games, if it ends up being 8, do you think the Browns will still try to go out and get somebody else, another veteran in the mix, and would you do that, or would you stick with Jacoby? The schedule's a little softer up front, and try to do the best you can until he comes back.
You know my opinion. Jay and I have been on this island for some time now.
Yeah.
You have a guy under contract. I know you don't like him.
Oh, God.
But Baker Mayfield is under contract. And, you're just going to muddy the waters even more.
Yeah.
If Deshaun Watson is not available, you have Jacoby Brissett, you have Baker, and you have a rocket scientist that has no experience whatsoever. But I think Baker Mayfield, at some point, the next 3 months are going to show his fate in the league, because he's going to have to come to grips with right now the Browns are doing Baker Mayfield a favor. You know what? I'm going to excuse you from mandatory minicamp, But when things change, we have to do what's best for the Browns, and that is having Baker Mayfield back in the swing of things, in the fold of things, because he is making north of $18 million. He's still on the contract. And guess what? If he still wants to play in this league, he's got to show the Browns and the other league and the other teams that he loves to play the game. Yeah. And right now, his latest comments aren't helping him.
Nope.
In terms of, hey, I just want to play football.
Yeah.
And to answer your question, I don't think they go out and try to
find
a
What
veteran.
about Jimmy G, D'Qwell? Sorry to cut you off. Baker or Jimmy G, who gives them a better chance to win in those 8 games? If you could exchange them for each other.
Yeah, I've never been quite sold on Jimmy G like everyone else has. Yeah. He needs a surrounding cast, and hell, he had it for a very had an elite defense. He had an elite defense, and he took him to a Super Bowl, and yet they're trying to trade him and get rid of him.
Right.
So it speaks volumes to what they think about him in terms of the future, in terms of repeating and getting back to a Super Bowl. So I don't necessarily think it's will it be a bridge type of situation? Maybe, but you take Baker. Baker understands the scheme. He understands the players. He's just going to have to get over it and mature up and handle his business like most other players in the National Football League.
Let me go ahead and go with you and Jay. Let's go down. Let's walk down this path.
Wait, really?
Yeah, let's go ahead.
You're playing hypothetical.
Yeah, let's go down this path. Right?
Great.
You bring Baker back, right? He come back. Deshaun Watson, maybe misses 8 games. Say he misses the year. Baker's back. He does his thing. Baker gets him to AFC Championship game. Plays well. Even possibly the Super Bowl, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just coming off an injury. This is coming off. They left him for dead, came back, did it for 1 year.
I follow.
If at the end of that season, it's already known that Baker Mayfield is going to be leaving, what do you think the fan base's reaction is that they got to take Deshaun Watson, who's been not played for 2 years? He's coming back. Baker has to leave, and Baker just took them the furthest they've ever been in their life. What type?
Gee, why are you stirring this?
I'm just asking.
I'm
glad you brought that up.
So what? You tell me the scenario in the city. How did that look?
Well, in the city, it will be up in arms because listen, they're going to get behind him. The city will get behind him. But from an organizational standpoint, if I'm Andrew Berry in that front office, listen, if he plays that well, Baker, in this hypothetical situation, if Baker Mayfield plays that well, now you can go out. Now he's more of an attractive trade bait at this point. Now you can go back and get those. Well,
he's a free agent.
That's very
Let me ask you, and what happens to the locker room?
Baker Mayfield is a slappy. He ain't going to the Super Bowl.
So what happens in the locker room? Would you get behind the cap?
You have to move on. You have to move on. Listen, they've seen enough of him in 4 years. 1 year isn't going to change.
Even if he wins a Super Bowl, it ain't going to change. That's hilarious.
If he gets not,
that's hilarious.
If he wins a Super Bowl, yes, that's different.
I have to mention, just to be clear, there's apparently some confusion in the comments when we referred to our rocket scientist quarterback.
Yeah.
Josh Dobbs, our lone backup, if you don't count Baker right now, is actually still training to be a rocket scientist, and is like that was his special time.
I mean,
he's taken 2 snaps in the
you
NFL
want your
and both
quarterback.
knees.
By the way, we don't know. Maybe Josh Dobbs is really good. He's never played.
Commander Josh Dobbs.
He's got a nice ball.
Hey, let's roll with it. Let's roll with it. We're
let's
Cleveland.
go, Josh Dobbs.
Give him a chance.
Commander Josh Dobbs.
Jason, you know better.
Listen,
I've
already broken 2 microphones on
Hey,
this,
listen, if we're talking Baker in the Super Bowl, maybe I'm playing left tackle for him.
Why not?
I'll kick Myles Garrett. I'll kick your ass if I'm on the line. Let's go.
I have to tell you this,
Don't tell him I said that.
G. Bush, if your analogy, if your hypothetical comes true, and that's probably the most wild hypothetical of any that we've ever given on this program, but if that comes true,
it's a wrap.
You got to shut it down because I don't know what you do. I just don't know what in the world you would do.
They burned the city down.
Did you say if he won a Super Bowl?
If he won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Give me that terrible problem.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's a tough
it's
one,
not
G.
that far-fetched because they did it with Nick Foles. It happened. He came out starting quarter. He rolled through the playoffs.
But you're asking Baker Mayfield. Yeah, you're asking Baker Mayfield to come in and handle this situation like a mature, experienced veteran, and that's a lot to ask for a guy in this hypothetical situation that you brought up. But
you know what?
Again,
I wonder once upon a time if Texas Tech, if they ever sat around and said, He played well when he was healthy, but now we're putting him back on the bench. Now he wants to go to Oklahoma. Should we let him go? Yeah, let him go. What's he going to do? Win a Heisman Trophy and take them to the national championship game? This guy loves the bigger the chip. For some reason, the better he seems to play. And I don't
Until
think
the fourth
he's
quarter,
ever had a
when they
chip
need him to play.
bigger than this one.
Until he's got the ball in the last 3 minutes and they're down
he
to
was
score.
tremendous in the fourth quarter in Oklahoma. I know he hasn't carried that over to Ohio State.
gotta
So was Tim Tebow.
We got to find a name for
tremendous.
Jason Lloyd now.
So was Tim Tebow, and Tim Tebow has a more impressive win. Tim Tebow, who I can't stand, not him personally.
Wait a minute.
I don't have any problem with him. I can't stand the Tim Tebow fans. They're annoying.
Yeah.
I don't have to be. Everybody says you hate Tim Tebow. I don't hate Tim Tebow. I hate his fans because they're so
You
annoying.
can't hate Tim Tebow.
I don't
by the
hate
way.
him.
You
I
can't
don't hate him.
No.
At all.
But Tim Tebow has a more impressive playoff win than Baker Mayfield, and he's the worst quarterback I've ever seen in my life. D'Qwell, have you ever seen a worse NFL quarterback than Tim Tebow?
His life.
Ever in his
Have you ever
life.
seen a worse
He hasn't
quarterback?
been watching Cleveland Browns football for
Right.
the last 22 years.
Right, it's true.
Honestly, my 9-year-old throws the ball better than Tim Tebow.
And that's a
Wow.
fact. That's a proven
Yeah,
fact.
that's
You can
fair.
YouTube
So
it.
what you did in college as a
The
quarterback when
hyperboles.
there's extreme talent around you, I don't give a rat's ass about that. D'Qwell Jackson
agree with
knows. It's
Yes,
all about
I
what
agree.
you do in the league. I don't care what you do in college. Screw college. That's how I.
No, I agree. Yeah, Tim Tebow was never really good, never elite, never a really good quarterback in the league.
Nobody ever. I hope nobody ever made that
And he beat a much better Steeler team than the Browns beat.
relative.
Listen, I'm telling
One throw.
you, this may sound crazy for me, man.
Yeah.
Look, man.
Sound crazy. This whole
The Browns
conversation
roster,
is
the
crazy.
Browns roster is really good, and I'm gonna tell you what, synergy is a thing.
Agreed.
If you get somebody in there and they start moving,
They're clicking.
and they start hitting on cylinders,
Yeah.
We've seen it.
I've seen it happen. Because I'm not. I don't want to come off as I actually watched the games. I watched the film. I'm not gonna lie. At the end of 20 what was it
2020?
At the end of 2020, he was rolling. I can't just sit up there and be like he's hot garbage. He's not.
But
hot
nobody's
garbage.
saying. Nobody's disagreeing with that.
But what I am saying is this: if people don't think that he could possibly go 6-2 in 8 games for the Browns, that's crazy.
Especially with this schedule
With
and
that
this roster.
Baker could definitely go 6-2.
It's possible.
And
he
how
could go
resentful he
6-2.
is right now.
Yeah, like he
That's
was
it.
like he could go 6-2.
He is
That ain't
But
that
they
bad.
winning the Super Bowl with the 9th or 10th best quarterback in the league. Let's not get carried away about the Browns' talent. It's good. It ain't stand out better than the other good teams in this league. Let's not get nuts.
They're pretty good.
Let's get nuts. G,
Pretty good.
of course it's pretty good.
Is it top 7?
Yes.
Yeah.
Then it's elite. By your own definition. Oh, by your own
I can't wait to
definition,
get a
it's elite.
conversation
No,
offline between you.
No,
You're
your
pigeonholing your
definition
numbers.
was top 7.
You walked right into that one. You set the
I
trap.
said there were.
I
You
said the
walked
trap
right
and
in.
you took the bait.
No, you didn't, because I didn't say it's always the top 7. I said there's 7
for
right now.
quarterbacks, but not for rosters.
No.
Oh,
no. I said there are 7 elite quarterbacks now. Next year there might be 5. The year after that there might be 8.
Hey.
I don't.
So the
freaking
bar
know.
for elite goes like this then, really.
Yeah, you're either. We shouldn't have an exact number of
I
people.
agree with
don't
that,
look at it
actually.
way.
You can't say, because what if you have an awful year of quarterbacks, you got to pick 3 to call them
But
elite.
here's why that doesn't fly. Elite is irrespective of the general pop, okay? Whatever, elite is going to be a certain level that's better than everybody else hands down. If there's 15 great quarterbacks in the league, and you want to say 15 of them are elite, your definition of elite then is anything over average.
Right.
Okay, but
And
that's
that's not
but
the
I'm not
definition of
saying
elite.
that. I'm saying 7 because I think they're elite talents. Now, D'Qwell wants to separate the top 3 who have actually won Super Bowls. I'm fine with that. You want to split that into 2 guys?
and that's-
Let's get to Jadeveon Clowney though, because I want your take on this. Because Clowney, let's play the clip, guys, or I don't know if it's the clip
You
or
have the sound?
quote, whatever it is.
It's old.
Yeah,
Set it up
Clowney,
that way.
last week when he talked about why he came back to Cleveland. Here we go.
I was all about where my boy Deshaun was going. When I talked to him, I said I played with him, and he kept us off the field a lot. And I was like, wherever you go, I know you're going to keep us off the field. You put up a lot of points, put us in rush and rushing situations instead of having to stop the run all the time. And I just wanted to go play with him and see what I can do with him again. Yeah, I talked to him a few times before he signed. And after he signed, and, he stayed in touch doing that whole little thing about coming here. And if he come, if I come, what's going to happen? And I told him if he go, I'll follow him up here. I'll go back. So that's what it came down to.
The Browns are better because Deshaun Watson's here. Because Clowney, again, if we take him at his word, I don't know, who knows. He's not going to be here if Baker Mayfield
How long
was here.
did he sign for, Clowney?
1 year.
Possible they'll never playing a Browns game together.
So that's the question, though, D'Qwell. Do you think that he will regret that if he doesn't play this year? If he doesn't get a chance this year to play with him, will he regret coming here?
Yeah, that's a bit of I think so. If they have more losses than wins, and Deshaun Watson doesn't see the field at all, because I was in this situation many years ago where when I was released from the Browns, I was going to go to a place that had an elite quarterback, and of those two, it was Andrew Luck and Peyton Manning, and I was going to follow them because I knew what it meant for me from a defensive standpoint of us always being in the game, those fourth quarter drives, never feeling like you're out of it as long as the game is close. So, yeah, he's going to have a bit of a buyer's remorse after this because who knows, he may never play with Deshaun Watson.
So you guys all agree with that?
Yeah.
He regrets this certainly if Watson's out for the year.
I don't necessarily agree with that.
I mean, that's the reason he came here.
But he knew he knew the situation.
He knew there was a risk.
He knew that risk.
Like the Browns, he probably thought it was going to be 4
He's making a good
games.
nickel.
And he making good money, and he's getting singled every play. He's about to get singled up. He played with Myles Garrett.
Yep.
Right.
By the way, I just got a text. D'Qwell from I think he was one of your former teammates. I can't remember the timeline now. Former Browns wide receiver Greg Little. Did you play with Greg Little, didn't you?
Yeah, I played with G Little. Yeah.
Yeah, he said he's waiting to find out where Baker's going because he's gonna follow him to wherever he goes. Greg Little is down to follow Baker wherever he goes.
You probably won't hear any of the Browns play, least of which Odell Beckham Jr.
No.
Where's he going? That's where I want to go. Hey, D'Qwell, one other thing before we're going to do top 5 in 1 second. We only have a minute for this, but I was talking to Jim Donovan yesterday, and he made a fascinating point. He said that he believes that the Browns have been in communication with the NFL all throughout this process, and he also thinks that the NFL and the NFLPA have been having their own meetings. One of the reasons he points to this being a 6-game suspension and not even an 8 is because the Browns have not been acting like there's any urgency at all to upgrade the position at quarterback. And he thinks that because of what you said yesterday, Bull, the 7th and 8th game are really big football games for this team. He thinks that they've got this quiet confidence, almost like they know what's coming, and that's why they haven't urgently been trying to make a deal for another quarterback. What do you make of that?
Yeah, that's an interesting way of looking at things. It could be so, but I think they're already in the hole deep enough. I mean, do you really want to create more of a problem? I mean, you have a decent Jacoby Brissett. He's been in this league a long time. He's a bridge quarterback at this point in his career. But I don't think who else is out there. But I think that from the Browns standpoint, they were operating under the limitations that the NFL had given them. They signed him to Deshaun Watson, the biggest contract in NFL history, all guaranteed, knowing he had all this situation looming over him. I think they rolled the dice. I think they looked down the street at Cincinnati and saw Joe Burrow take a team in 2 years to a Super Bowl. Like, listen, we got to pull the trigger now if we want to compete within the AFC. Right. And as this thing kind of unfolds, no one knows. No one knows. You're hearing
even within
comments from a year, 6 to 8 games. No one really knows. And I think that the Browns have no choice in this matter. They made the decision. They're sticking to it.
All right,
by the way, G said it yesterday. He and I were talking after the show, and he said it. Joe Burrow changed the whole thing.
I think he did.
He changed the whole thing.
Yeah.
And D'Qwell just said it again.
But also, you have to remember that Joe kind of replaces Ben. You already had Baltimore and Pittsburgh with these great quarterbacks. Right. So Ben drops off, and you think, okay, now we just have to beat one, and then Joe comes in. It's an arms race.
He's more likable, too.
I know. I wish I didn't like him so much.
By the way, this is a homer alert, I'll admit, but I'm curious what you guys take. I bet if he stays healthy when it's all said and done, Joe Burrow will be even better player than Ben Roethlisberger.
How are you a homer from New Jersey?
To me, he's already better.
Yeah, I'll take it. I'll take that. I think he will be.
You think he'll be better?
Skill-wise, I think he's better than him already.
What do you think, D'Qwell?
Yeah, I think so. He has a better skill set early on than Ben did. Yeah. Think when Ben walked into the league, he had big busts behind him. He had a solidified defense. All he had to do is not screw it up. He was a serviceable guy.
Right. And Ben's a D-bag. Let's face it. Right, D'Qwell, Ben's a D-bag, isn't he?
You could say it.
Do you want to say it or you don't want to say it? I don't want to put you in that spot.
I'm just trying to set you up, dog.
I don't want to put you in the spot.
We won't tell anyone.
McNugget says we got to bring in a D for our top 5.
I'm saying he's a D-bag. Maybe Aditi wants to agree with me. I don't know, but
we're going to move on to the ultimate top 5. We're going to cut that conversation off. We got the 5 best middle linebackers in NFL history.
Wait a second.
D'Qwell Jackson.
Brandon Whedon's still available for the Browns.
No, he already got it. He said cut it off.
Can we mute Bull's mic for a sec, please?
No, never.
All right, Roundstone brings us the ultimate top 5 every day. Roundstone offers a better alternative for affordable quality health care. For more than a decade, Roundstone Insurance has been saving small and mid-sized businesses money, an average of 20%. Yeah, 20%. Contact us today to learn how you can get great health care benefits that your employees will love and save money, too. And here's Aditi, D'Qwell, McNuggets, and the panel.
Aditi,
there it is.
Aditi, you want to talk about that, Ralph?
No, Aditi, don't. Yeah, thank you.
Go down there.
Aditi.
I spent 10 years talking about him. Isn't that enough? Is that
I know the real answer, but we'll keep it quiet. I don't know anything. I don't know
D'Qwell,
anything.
why did they do this to us? We're not even
I'm
there.
joking.
I'm
I'm joking.
I just sit here and
saying
smile.
he's a bad guy, and everybody loves Joe Burrow. So
Okay,
let's move on.
top
Go ahead,
5.
Top 5. Middle
All
linebacker.
right. With D'Qwell, we figured it was only right to do the 5 best middle linebackers in NFL history.
You better not
Let's start
screw this one up, McNuggets.
Let's start with number 5. Junior Seau. 12-time Pro Bowler, 10-time All-Pro, 1992 Defensive Player of the Year. In 94, he was the AFC Player of the Year, offensive and defense. Hall of Famer, almost 1,900 tackles, one of the best of all time.
I'm not taking him out of my top 5.
Man, that dude played forever. He said 1992. He was playing when I was still in high school. Still playing. Still looking like that.
What says the expert, D'Qwell? He's got to be in your top 5, right?
Nah, he's like my top 10.
Wow.
This is a very hard list because Junior Seau was definitely, when I put it together in my head, I'm like, wait, Junior Seau definitely has to be in the 5. But I can't take it. So I'll let you guys go through the 5 and I'll tell you my 5.
Okay,
right,
very good.
Yeah, let's
But he's
run
not in
through
your
it, then
top
we'll
5.
compare
Can
with
I-
D'Qwell.
Go
Can
ahead,
I
Aditi.
throw in
Go
one
ahead,
thing,
Dee.
though? Can I throw in one thing?
Please.
My very first week on the job at the NFL Network in 2012, I flew out to California, and that week, Junior Seau so tragically killed himself.
Right.
And my very first assignment was going to his house. And let me just tell you this.
Oh, my God.
The number of fans, the people that filed by, that were dropping letters and cards and flowers, the impact that he had on the community, on fans, on the NFL world, I think that has to count for something. So it's very fair to say perhaps if you're just isolating who a guy is on the field, that's one thing. But Junior Seau clearly impacted people beyond just the way that they played. And I think that should sort of factor into how we count our 5.
Sam,
No doubt.
That is well said.
Loved him.
What's your next one, Nuggets?
Number 4.
All right, number 4, Mike Singletary, the leader of the 1995 Bears defense, 10-time Pro Bowler, 9-time All-Pro, Super Bowl champ, 2-time Defensive Player of the Year. He had 19 sacks, 7 interceptions, nearly 1,500 tackles. He'd be higher if he played a little longer. His career was shorter than the other guys on the
He was the leader of the best defense ever.
He's definitely in my top 5. Like that guy, he was undersized. He wasn't the biggest guy, but he played with such intensity and such, he solidified the middle linebacker position as an enforcer, and you loved it about him.
No doubt.
Crazy, man.
His eyes, too.
All right.
Just looking at the offense, I mean, he was coming after everybody. Number 3.
Number 3, the leader of the Steel Curtain, Jack Lambert. I know it may be not a popular pick here. Didi, you may like this more than the rest of the guys in the panel, but once again, 9-time Pro Bowler, 8-time All-Pro, 4-time Super Bowl champion, Defensive Player of the Year in 1976.
And total dreamboat.
How about 27 interceptions, by the way? 27, the most of any linebacker on this list.
Say that again?
I know.
27
picks?
interceptions.
As a middle linebacker.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So wait, I saw a lot of head nods on the panel here.
Kent State pride.
Yeah.
Kent
Jack
State
Lambert's-
Pride. So I'm thinking you
Yeah,
should
Jack
definitely have
Lambert's
him in your top
tainted.
5.
I'm not putting him at a Singletary, but he should be on the list. I agree with
Okay,
you.
so you're okay with him being in the top 5 because I am
definitely,
too.
yeah.
I mean, how you rank these, it's going to
Yeah,
be so
that's true.
subjective, but
That's true.
yeah,
Right.
he's in the top 5.
Yeah.
I ain't got no
Yeah,
problem.
no doubt.
We're going to hate one of the top 2 also, even as much as Lambert.
Bull
Played more
is pre-hating your next one. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, he is. Go ahead.
All right, number 2, the man that all the awards are named after.
Yeah.
Dick Butkus. Anthony did not know that name was real, by the way. He had to ask me. He goes, hey,
my
is this a
God.
prank or is this a real name?
Is that a
Dick
prank?
Butkus is very real. 2-time Defensive Player of the Year.
Prank.
27 interceptions, 27 fumble recovers. He made the NFL's all-decade team as the middle linebacker in 2 separate decades.
Yeah.
And he's a
Two
great
separate
actor.
decades.
Yep.
All right.
I thought
Well,
he'd
we know
be.
who
I
number
thought
one
he.
is.
I thought he would be.
good,
No, I know
I
who number
did.
one is.
I just thought he was going to put
Yeah.
Butkus over.
Well, let's do number one real quick. Then I want to hear D'Qwell and everyone else. But number one is Ray Lewis, 13-time Pro Bowler. It's a record for middle linebackers. 10-time All-Pro, 2-time Super Bowl champ. Only player to ever win Defensive Player of the Year and Super Bowl MVP in the same season. He also holds the NFL record for career tackles, career solo tackles, and single-season solo tackles. He beat my Giants in the Super Bowl. That was devastating. It's the first football game I remember vividly.
Oh, we all feel sympathetic.
And
for
Ray
you.
Lewis.
Poor Giants.
one time.
Ray Lewis, the best middle linebacker ever.
And led the league in passion too.
Led the league in murders.
No.
one year.
Yeah,
Whoa,
I remember that.
Whoa.
Whoa. He just wouldn't rat out his friend, right?
Careful.
Allegedly.
Look at that look on Aditi. Aditi, before we get
Let's clean that up before we move on.
Aditi,
Alleged murder.
alleged murder. Aditi, before we get to D'Qwell's definitive top 5 list, can we hear? Do you have any disagreements with McNugget's list there?
I think that there's quibbling about the order, perhaps, as Jay
Yes.
said, but it's kind of like 6 of one and a half dozen of another. Major absences. I mean, it's just hard. It's hard
Yeah,
to
We take it off. That's
and I
the
think it's
question.
comparing the eras, and it's also like who was so important to what team, like
Right.
who made what defense.
I don't think that.
So, I mean, I'd rather hear from the expert. Let's hear from the expert.
D'Qwell obviously has one different one because he didn't have Junior on his list.
Yeah.
So
Who you got, D'Qwell?
Yes.
All right, so the two that I had in my that wasn't mentioned was I'm a little biased because I grew up a diehard Florida State fan. Derek Brooks.
Oh,
I
Derek
thought
was
his
good.
impact.
Was he a middle?
His impact.
Was he a middle
off the
linebacker,
field,
though, D'Qwell? Or was he outside?
Yeah, I mean,
no, he did play some
weak
outside,
side, but
but
he's still middle.
he played predominantly at Tampa. He was in the middle.
That's hand up then. I did consider him, but I didn't know if he was predominantly just a middle linebacker.
I think
which is
because he
why.
did play some outside that maybe
Yeah.
Okay,
the
that's
perception
fair.
is that he wasn't a pure and true middle linebacker, but like he was the Mike on that team.
Yeah.
The other guy's up for debate. I know you guys probably won't agree with me, but I think he's the most underrated middle linebacker that's not in the Hall of Fame right now is London Fletcher.
Yeah,
You look at
Oh my
if you compare his
I
stats
was
up
literally
against
just going to say, D'Qwell, what about London Fletcher?
Cleveland's own.
yes, if you put his stats up against Ray Lewis, aside from the Pro Bowls, they're almost identical. And for some reason, he gets overlooked every year for the Hall of Fame. And the guy was a steward at the position, played 10 plus years without missing a snap. And, a lot of people just overlook him for whatever reason.
And,
Well, I
and you
got a
know what I
question.
think a big part of it is? He didn't have a squirrel dance. He didn't talk. He didn't paint
Right.
his face
Yeah,
that
that is-
same way.
right.
You're
He
right,
wasn't
Aditi.
courting the media. And
Right.
he wasn't trying to be anything other than what he was, which
just
was,
did
as
his
you
job.
just said, the anchor of that defense, the captain of that defense. And how do you not
Yes.
love that story? How do you not love where London Fletcher came from and what he turned that into?
It's so funny. He's so
It's so
underrated that
funny
like
because I
I
was
didn't
just
even
sitting
think
there
of him.
and I was like, is London
Until
Fletcher a
D'Qwell.
top 5 or am I just totally biased because
Yeah, no, he's
I- he's
can't
one of my
put him
favorite
in.
people.
For me personally, I can't put him in any of those 5, but he belongs in the conversation. But D'Qwell's right. He's so underrated that I didn't even think of him until you
No, you don't
said
think
him.
of him.
yeah.
D'Qwell,
And
what
Pro
about
Bowls
Zach
are
Thomas,
overrated.
by the way?
What did you say?
He's a guy that's
Oh,
got
well,
a
Pro
lot
Bowls
of
are
love lately.
popularity contests. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry, Mike. Go ahead, Mikey.
No, but just what's
You
your
say
take?
Zach.
Zach Thomas, there's a lot of Hall of Fame chatter for him.
I like Zach
mean, I know he's
Thomas.
undersized. What was your take playing against him the same time?
Yeah, I thought he played the game the right way. I think he's not in my top 5, but he's definitely worthy of a Hall of Fame. I believe he had a decorated career for Miami, and the way he played the game and his impact off the field, he was an enforcer, man. And back in those days, you had to bring your big boy pass because he was not letting up, and he played the game the right way. I'll tell you that.
There's a
Brian
couple.
Urlacher.
I was going to say that.
Urlacher.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Chris
was just going to
Chris
say, what about
Spielman.
Urlacher?
And there's a
Patrick
guy
Willis,
that
but-
retired. Patrick Willis.
Yeah, he just mentioned Patrick Willis.
Patrick Willis, good gracious, he was a monster. Like, when he retired, I thought I was playing.
Well, the best linebacker ever didn't play middle linebacker, and that was Lawrence Taylor.
No doubt. No
Lawrence
doubt.
Taylor play every position.
Lawrence Taylor's is Lawrence Taylor the best defensive player ever?
Best football player
He's
ever.
in the conversation for sure.
Yeah, I think so. Between him and Dion, the way they completely changed the landscape of the
Changed
way
the
the
game.
position is played.
Reggie White.
Yep.
Reggie White,
Bruce
yeah, you
Smith.
can add him in that category.
Yeah, Bruce Smith.
I mean,
Was Kevin Green a middle linebacker?
outside.
outside.
He was
No, outside, yeah.
Yep. McNuggets is telling me that we got to say goodbye to D'Qwell.
Well, can we hear his top three? Let's hear your top three real quick.
I mean, in no particular order. So this is my top 5: Derrick Brooks, Ray Lewis, London Fletcher, Dick Buckus, and Mike Singletary. Those are my 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's crazy.
I have
D'Qwell.
I have one last thing for D'Qwell too. If you're going to be in that Montgomery Burns villain chair when we're talking to you, here's my recommendation.
This is my cigar chair.
Next time we bring you on, can you start with the back of the chair on the camera?
Oh, yeah, you do a slow turn
Spin around.
And maybe have a cat on your lap.
Yes.
Oh, there he is.
Yes.
Are you drinking scotch?
All right, D'Qwell.
Thank you, D'Qwell.
Yes,
He
indeed,
is
I
the
am.
most interesting man in the world.
Thanks, D'Qwell.
D'Qwell, we'll see
Take
you
care.
next week.
He needs liquor to get through a segment
Later.
with us.
Thank you for. And
Yeah, right, he does. He does a shot at the end of every segment
It's
he's
the
done
only
with us.
way he can tolerate us.
Mike, I think you've touched on something. I really think that we do have to, every time D'Qwell comes on, Mikey, you need to tell him, flip the chair
Flip the
and
chair,
do a
yeah.
slow
Music sting
turn.
too. Evil music sting.
Yep,
like a
we
bum, bum, bum.
So, hey, just so you guys know, this is the first time that any guest on UCSS has used the external camera hookup. We figured out how to get it to work,
It looked great.
which is why he looked 4K HD. Aditi, we just sent her some gear to hook up. Next
No,
week,
oh,
Aditi's
right.
going to be.
You did not send me a camera. Where is my camera?
Oh, I don't know what we sent then. What do we send? What do we send?
We said
Send
that
her
to Bullseye.
You sent a
Right,
ring
Ally.
light and you sent a microphone. And I
Diddy out
keep
here
telling
sounding
you,
like
I
Mariah
keep the camera
Carey.
on my computer is crappy.
Where
Oh.
is my camera at?
Well, we didn't send D'Qwell a camera either. That was his. But I know we sent Aditi some stuff.
You did. You sent me a light and you sent me a microphone, and I'm sorry, I'm a little technologically challenged, so it's not quite set up yet.
Yeah.
Came this morning. I'm waiting for my 6-year-old, who, by the way, looks like Jack Lambert without his teeth, to come set it up for
Dreamball.
me.
Yep. He's a
So,
dreamball. Ladies are
yes.
gonna love him.
Aditi,
But it
let's
is a
talk about-
camera. I was like, can I get one of those like super high def?
Yeah, get her one.
Yeah, we'll send
Let's
you
go.
one.
We got it in the budget.
We'll send you one. Sure.
Aditi, let's
Okay,
talk.
thanks.
We were debating.
You're
We've had
selling
a heated
sponsorship.
debate about, Jay thinks if the Browns don't win a Super Bowl with Deshaun Watson, that the trade's a disaster.
A failure.
I believe when you have a great quarterback like Deshaun Watson or Joe Burrow or Josh Allen, if you don't win a Super Bowl, it's a disappointment. But if they win, if they're winning double-digit games every year, going deep in the playoffs a bunch of times, even go to a Super Bowl but somehow lose, I can't call that a bad trade. What say you on this?
No, I'm with Jay on this one. I think the way that you completely rewrote the way contracts are done, I think that the things that you absorbed, and I'm saying things very nicely, but the public perception, the baggage, the fatigue of all of this, the moment where Baker Mayfield is holding a camp for kids and Deshaun Watson is in the midst of a legal hearing over all sorts of sexual allegations. All of that you have absorbed, you have said winning and winning the ultimate prize is the single most important thing. They are hunting for a trophy and nothing less than that. So I'm with Jay. I don't think that you take on all of that if you think anything less than a Lombardi trophy is okay, is acceptable. So Jay, I'm with you on that one. I really am.
I think you said it much smarter than I did or could, but I agree. I didn't even really think of the juxtaposition between what was going on at the same time that Baker Mayfield was holding a camp for kids. When you throw that in there, it's not great optics, and I think it's an all-in trade.
Right? Let's not sit here and say that Deshaun Watson has never done anything for children.
No,
and that Baker
that would be
Mayfield
unfair.
has never done anything that we look askance at. It's just simply the coincidental timing of that. And as you said, the juxtaposition of the one image versus the other. The Browns took on a lot beyond just taking on one player. And it goes from the gamut. It's not just everything that Deshaun Watson is carrying with him. It's also that contract. It's that largest guaranteed contract ever. It is the way that they as an organization are viewed now externally, whether the narrative is fair or not, all of that. You don't take all of that on unless you have your eye on exactly one prize. And Adam, that prize is not winning 12 games.
I get it.
That prize is not
I get it,
winning
but they were
14
never going to
games.
win it with Baker, so they had to get in the game. And now they are.
Aditi, I want
see
to ask
that.
a question that's slightly off topic, but it's really
Sure.
kind of a reporter-based question, and I asked Jason to respond to this off the top. 2 days ago, we had the Associated Press reporting that a league source told them they were more likely to accept a 6 to 8 game suspension from Sue Robinson if that's what she hands down, and that they would not appeal that decision. Then yesterday, it was a complete 180 and a contradiction. Another league source tells Mary Kay Cabot of Cleveland.com that that's not true, that they will appeal, and they're not going to settle for anything less than a year or an indefinite suspension. What do you make of these completely conflicting reports? Because one of them is absolutely wrong and one of them is absolutely right, but the sources are coming from the same office. What do you make of that?
Yeah, but not everybody in this same office talks the same way. Not everybody has the same sources. Not everybody is plugged in exactly the same way. And there are certain people, and Jason surely knows this, there are certain people who love talking, and they love talking anonymously, and they think it may earn them something later down the road, or it may make them feel powerful in some way. But just because they're talking doesn't necessarily mean that they're totally clued in. And there's also another possibility here too. There has been the passage of one day. Perhaps it's possible something has changed in the course of that one day, or some piece of the formula has changed because of that. We all now to some degree have to rely on anonymous sources, but I go back to my days when I was at the Wall Street Journal, and the ethos was you weren't allowed to use an anonymous source. And if you wanted to use an anonymous source, you had to have at least two saying the exact same thing. And my problem right now, you've got one source, right, telling the Associated Press one thing, and one source telling Mary Kay something. Well, I'd love it if it's two sources or multiple sources, or getting some sort of verification and not just running because one person tells you something.
Yeah, the point I made, Aditi, is everybody's got an agenda. Everybody we talk to has an agenda.
Yes.
And you have to know going in what's their agenda and why are they telling me what they're telling me.
And I remember, very early on, again, I'll go back to something, since you brought up Ben Roethlisberger, this one sort of sticks in my head. This was 10 years ago. I had just moved to Pittsburgh. I was new in town, and somebody had told our reporter at the NFL Network, Ian Rappaport, that Ben Roethlisberger wanted a trade. Now, it was unverifiably not, it was verifiably not true. But Ian was indeed told that, and he was told it by a person who had an agenda. And I remember being furious at the time. Why couldn't you just call Ben's camp? Why couldn't you get a second source? Why couldn't you ask for the team to say something? But it's just the way that journalism is right now. And when you're young in your job, or when you are competitive, or when you're hopeful, or whatever it may be, sometimes you need to take that second step to say, what is the agenda here? Or is there a possible agenda here? Why would this person be telling me this? So again, and this is the same thing, guys, that I said to all of you a few days ago, I don't think anything about this situation is remotely black or white. I think that there's a lot of noise right now. I think that there is a ton of, it could be this, it could be that, it could be whatever. I, for one, quite frankly, and Mikey McNuggets, I know that you're going to hate that I say this, because I expect ratings are through the roof anytime we talk about Baker Mayfield or Deshaun Watson, because I'm kind of over it. I'm over it. Baker,
I said that earlier.
Take a pay cut, go to a new team, and get a new job, and do a show me deal. Okay? We already know the Browns are willing to pick up half of that salary. We also know that teams would like Baker to take a little bit of a pay cut. If you really believe in yourself, then go and prove it. And I get it that Baker could sit here and say, look, the Browns owe me $18.8 million or $18.9 million. And I don't care if I sit for the year. If they have to release me, they owe me that money. They need to pay me that. Okay, fine. But then you could sit for a year. Or you could get yourself in a position at, let's say, Carolina or Seattle for maybe $15 million. The Browns will pay half of that. The new team will pay the other piece of it. And all of a sudden, you could earn yourself a mega major contract and show that you are indeed a guy who's very competitive and wants to play and deserves to be a starter in this league. So please just go do that, Baker.
From your lips
so
to
I can
God's
stop
ears.
talking about you.
Well,
and Mikey McNuggets will be upset because I know it's ratings gold every time we talk about Baker Mayfield, but quite frankly, I, for one, am a little tired of it. Take the pay cut, go to a new team, go prove that you belong. Done.
Aditi, you just canceled the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. If we end this ruling right now and we get rid of Baker tomorrow, we're done.
In fairness, one
Wait,
quick thing in
am I
fairness.
out of a job then? Am I never getting that new camera? Is that what the whole
You can kiss that new
Camera's out
camera
now.
goodbye.
It's gone.
It is not exclusively though a Watson thing. We're not just that sick. It's a Browns thing. You talk baseball, and this isn't just this situation. You know this. You talk about baseball on the radio or something, they're just not as interested. I remember when I was doing columns for Cleveland.com for a while, and they said, or Plain Deal or whatever, and they said that if you had the word Browns in the title, it would automatically get like 10 times the number of clicks as if it said like school shooting or anything else, because this community is just really like they just want
Care
Browns.
more about the Browns than school shooting.
Than school shooting.
You know, it's funny. I was at the Pro Football Hall of Fame 2 days ago, and Joe D, of course, who was with the Browns and with the Bills prior to the Browns, was there, and we were chatting. And I asked him about that. I said, to me, those are the two best fan bases in the entire country or in the entire league. And what is it about them? And he just said they're blue collar people. There's not as much going on that you completely invest in your team, and it's the loyalty. No matter what, there's just this undying loyalty to their club. And I say that all the time. I really, truly do. I do think that the Browns have a tremendous fan base, just like the Bills do. And I get it, but it's funny how talking about Denzel Ward and why he's a Walter Payton Man of the Year candidate and what he does in the community and how, you know, people sort of thought like, why is he drafted number 4 overall, and how he's proven that he should indeed have been picked that high. That just doesn't generate the same buzz as talking about sort of the scandalous things.
It doesn't.
That's
and
just a little bit.
Aditi,
Yeah.
McNuggets wants to use some data to back his point here.
Yeah, so 6 minutes ago, 12:17, we tweeted that Aditi was joining the conversation about Deshaun Watson right now, and we went up 113 viewers in the 6 minutes since we mentioned that on Twitter.
That's because of
So
Aditi, not because of Deshaun
I agree with
Watson.
you, Aditi.
it was the second tweet about Aditi being on the show, though. We talked about her joining with the top 5 conversation.
And that didn't move
then,
the needle as much?
No, it moved up a tiny bit, and then we mentioned Aditi and Deshaun in the same tweet, and we skyrocketed. So we think we're all sick of it, but it is the biggest story in sports right now, so we can't run away from it.
And particularly here. I mean, there's interest.
Well, and I think there's the news component, right? I think the same way that I'm sitting here and being like, okay, let's just find out what it is and move forward. I think that that's where fans are as well. You know, are they going to be able to see Deshaun Watson this year or not? Are they going to be able to, or are they banking on Jacoby Brissett? Are they dealing with whatever emotions they have to deal with and how they root and what they're rooting? I think that there is a suspense factor to both Baker and Deshaun. It's not just about the scandal, to be fair.
Now, Didi, vibe with me here. Vibe with me a little bit.
All right, I'll try.
So, I'll give you an example. Jason's really plugged in. He know everything was going on, right? You go to the Athletic. You know everybody talking. He know everything about everybody. Jay, I heard him in a conversation earlier. He know everything about TV. He know who going, who coming, what we doing. Everything.
Who Stephen A. sleeping with, all that stuff.
Hey, come on now.
I don't know that I need to
I'm kidding.
He told us
I had
everything.
nothing to
He
do
gave
with
us all
that.
the dirt. No, he did not.
Now, by the
I'm
way,
going to mute.
Aditi, for the record, I've
I'm
never,
kidding.
ever
I'm
let me
kidding.
slide.
this.
Let me
joking.
bring this back. It's
Let him
me-
vibe.
Sorry,
it's
G.
me and
Sorry.
you, Aditi,
We have
before
lost the
we got
wheel.
derailed here.
All right,
Okay.
G, I got you.
All right.
Got you, G.
Now, you're very plugged in, right? And so people hear stuff and know stuff. So for regular people like me, are you telling me that with 100% guarantee that
No.
the Cleveland Browns have no clue what punishment is coming for Deshaun Watson? So when they went out and made the deal, they didn't vet. They didn't say, "Hey, let me talk to. Hey, Roger, I'm thinking about giving this man $230. Would you say it's a good chance he gonna get 8, 6, or the whole year?" You think they don't have no clue about it? Because people are acting like they're in the dark. I think they already know.
I've had a few conversations with a few members of the organization that make me think, gee, they really, truly don't know.
Okay.
And remember, you can have a really good read on what the league office is doing. That doesn't mean that you know what Sue Robinson is doing. That is the federal judge who is in charge of the hearing. She's a former prosecutor. She does not carry the same weight that somebody in the league office does. That's what I'll say. So I have not, in all my years as needing to be able to read people and read the room and discern what I'm being told, I do indeed trust the various people in various different divisions and departments who are telling me they really, truly, honestly don't know how this is going to play out. But I do think there's a separate point here, G. You would hope that the Browns sort of had a sense of that and had some conversations before they committed that amount of money.
If they're going to say that if they're going to say they've done this exhaustive investigation into the whole thing, then that's part of it.
Right.
That's part of it.
Things could change, though, right? I mean, there's new information. You've said yourself that you think some of this new information has come out.
Definitely, and I think the fact that this hearing is taking as long as it's taking, the fact that we're in our third day, means that it is indeed getting extremely detailed.
Yeah.
And it is indeed getting into a lot of minutia that may, in fact, be very new minutia. Because remember, there was no whiff of the Texans' alleged role or involvement in any of this until just recently. And you think that this has been a story, this has been something for a long time.
And how does that play with the Texans? Like, we've heard a lot about Deshaun Watson, but not so much about, the Texans. Are they bracing for some sort of trial, or are they going to have to start lowering up and figuring out what's going on with the league? Where does that play with the Texans at?
I think definitely there's going to be some sort of reckoning there. And I think the Texans' initial statement that they've been cooperating as opposed to just an absolute outright denial is somewhat telling as well. That the Texans said, we've been cooperating as much as we can, because isn't the knee-jerk response usually to deny right away? We deny this, or this is not true, or we will clear our name, or the organization rebuts this, whatever. That's not what that initial response was. So I do think that there will be a piece here. I think that the owner of the sort of team affiliated massage group, outfit, organization, massage company, I think what she had to say about the fact that she openly told members of the Texans organization that she had had several masseuses engage in sexual activity relations with Deshaun Watson is very interesting. And the fact that she warned them that he was ripe for a lawsuit is very interesting as well. If all of that is indeed true, then I think that that's fairly notable.
Aditi, I don't want to go too far in the weeds here, but Jeffrey Kessler is involved in this whole thing now from the NFLPA side. How much can you tell us about what his presence in this whole story, how that could possibly change what happens?
I don't know that it really does change. I just think that this is such a big deal. I mean, whatever this is, we're not talking about a fourth string right guard. You're talking about a guy who was prior to having sat out last year seen as one of the brightest, youngest, biggest stars at the quarterback position in the National Football League. You're talking about a guy that a team committed more guaranteed money to than any team has ever committed to any player in the history of the National Football League. The profile of all of this is just so enormous. You'd expect everybody at the highest levels to be involved in some way.
It's amazing. It's like, I know we're in the rare dead time in the NFL calendar, right? Like from the end of mandatory minicamp till training camp is the one dead time, the only dead time really in the entire NFL calendar. But there are usually, in the last few years, there's been a variety of stories, that have popped up. It feels like all there is Watson and whether Baker will get traded. I guess maybe, Jimmy G possibly getting traded is still, but it feels like I'm thinking of like NFL stories. Is there any other stories? Are we just so in the weeds with this that I'm not paying attention? Are there any other NFL stories?
There are, but they're just, it's like Rob Gronkowski retiring. That, in theory, is a really big story. It's Julian Edelman saying that the Patriots thought that Jimmy Garoppolo was dogging it and didn't play play through pain. That's sort of kind of a little bit interesting. Terry McLaurin and what's going on with the entire wide receiver market.
That's true.
That's somewhat interesting.
He didn't even know Gronk retired. He didn't even know he's so in the weeds on
He
this.
retired.
See, and I think that's because Baker and Deshaun, not only are we in the middle of that, it'd be interesting for me to ask a friend in, let's say, San Francisco, is this a really big story? Like, are you as engaged in that?
Right,
We're obviously in it, but I also think that these are such unique stories. Like, name me another story that parallels or rivals
Can you
the
please
two
ask?
pieces of that.
Can you ask for us some of your San Francisco friends? We don't
Yeah,
have any friends
I'd like to
outside of
know.
each other.
No,
so
we don't.
If you really could, like between now and next time we see it, like I'd like to know for real, like if this is a big deal
If
all
other people
across,
are
or
as
if we're just
engaged,
really
as
inside.
fascinated by this.
Yeah,
Sure. But I mean, I will do that, Mike. There's not a problem with that. But you have to think that the New York Times and The Athletic and Sports Illustrated, what they're all devoting to the Deshaun story really tells you this is indeed a national story. I mean, maybe not everybody is as in the weeds on Baker Mayfield, but
it's got
also
everything.
think about that. This is a guy who has been a starter in the National Football League for multiple years, who ended a massively long playoff drought for a team that, was a laughingstock for a long time, was a starting quarterback for a greater length of time than anybody in recent memory for a team that, again, had 26 or 27 starting quarterbacks in the previous 5 years, something insane like that. So that is a pretty big story in and of itself, that marriage broke up.
And it's got everything that Americans love in this story, too. We've got intrigue. We've got sex scandals. We've got crime.
Racism.
We've got racism. We're a true crime-based society now. We love this stuff. So it's got excellent. And these players, it's got an elite player. It's not like he's trash or anything. There's a lot of factors in here that you can totally understand why it is such a huge story. And it's not such a huge story that Rob Gronkowski's like, I think I'm going to retire again. Who cares?
We got Baker working out with the head of QAnon.
Well, exactly. There you go.
Yeah, but if you think about it, like another time, we would be having the conversation about whether Gronkowski changed the tight end position. If Gronkowski goes down as one of the top 3 tight ends to ever play the position, we would really, I mean, he is a player of the caliber that you mark the end of his career. And it's barely been a blip.
Gronk just doesn't want to play with Brady. Gronk should go to the Bengals. Let's go. Play with Joey B.
Oh, my God.
Can you stop trying to make your team better on our Cleveland-based sports show?
What was Joe Mixon's line? That they're going to, I don't know, he just basically set everything up that the Bengals are going to have the most monster year and that people don't even realize it.
Yeah, well, hopefully either the Bengals or Browns will win the Super Bowl. Because I am, as much as I love the Bengals for my whole life, I'm so invested in Deshaun Watson and the Browns. I'm dying for them to win it. Because if the Browns win the Super Bowl, G and I are gonna have a party to stick it to the Baker Bros. I mean, it's gonna be the greatest party.
The Browns
ever.
will not win the Super Bowl, and the Bengals will not go back to the Super Bowl.
Oh, they will both. They're both gonna win the Super Bowl in the next 5 years. Mark it down. Bengals, Browns will both win the Super Bowl in the next 5 years. I said it.
Bold
I said it. Mark it down.
Homer the Bull.
Mark it down.
Will you bet your house on it? Will you bet your house on it?
Hell no. Are you crazy?
You have to understand with Bull, hyperbole is normal speak.
Scream it out
So
there.
I've learned to say that when he says stuff like that, I know that he's just.
But Bull, I will.
I believe it, but I wouldn't bet my house on it.
Then you
I'm
don't
not
believe
stupid.
it. Then
By
you
the
don't
way,
believe it.
Even if Deshaun Watson plays his tail off, I predict he'll never win MVP. They will never give him an MVP.
That's
ever.
true. That's true.
If he does, it'll have to be
Ben Roethlisberger.
open,
Listen,
shut case.
I just had this conversation with somebody at the Hall of Fame when we were talking about Ben Roethlisberger. Ben Roethlisberger was never close in the MVP talk.
Nope,
Ben
he was not.
Roethlisberger did not win a Super Bowl MVP.
But did he ever deserve one? Oh, I don't know about
He threw for 5,000 yards one year.
But what about the throw? What about the throw? What about the drive and the throw? And the wide receiver who caught the ball, Santonio, won the MVP.
I'm not talking about the Super Bowl MVP. I'm saying the regular season MVP. I don't think he ever deserved the regular season.
He wasn't. Yeah. It's so interesting how people automatically say, well, Ben Roethlisberger's a Hall of Famer. He's a Hall of Famer on the strength of 2 Super Bowl wins. One in which he didn't actually really play particularly well. He had a great playoff run. The actual Super Bowl, it wasn't really the way that he played.
Eli Manning, too. Eli Manning's not even close.
Eli Manning.
Yeah.
Who also won 2 Super Bowls, who played tremendously in both Super Bowls, who does indeed have 2 Super Bowl MVP trophies. Everybody poo-poos that and simply says, oh, he'll just get in because of his name. So why is Ben a lock? But Eli is just because of his name.
I think Ben was better than Eli.
I think
personally.
they're both a lock because they both won 2 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
I think that's going to do it.
That's what it is.
I personally, I would vote for Ben and not for Eli, but, whatever.
Why is Tom Coughlin not in the Super Bowl? If Bill Cowher is in the Super Bowl with 1 Super Bowl, why is Tom Coughlin
Hall of Fame.
2?
Hall of Fame.
Yeah, that's what I'm sorry.
Did that have anything to do with his rosy personality?
It's a popularity contest.
Thank you, Aditi. It does. It has everything to do with that.
And the fact that his cheeks turn red.
I've talked to, I won't name names, but assistant coaches that worked under Tom, and they didn't like him.
He was awful.
They didn't like him.
I disagree. He is my favorite person that I've ever been around in the National Football League.
Is that true?
I love Tom Coughlin, and I talked to a lot of people who actually, and you know what's amazing? I remember the year I went to literally 30-something guys in the locker room. He was almost going to lose his job. It's the year before they won the 2nd Super Bowl, and they finished, I think, 9-6, 10-6, sorry. They'd beaten Washington at the end of the season, but they just missed out on the playoffs. And those players picked him up and hugged him in the locker room. And I asked for sort of a referendum on him. And his players loved him. He did indeed undergo a personality morph in the sense that he showed more who he is. And I'll never forget Mike Tomlin telling me that his kid's favorite coach in the league, the person that they always were most excited to see, was Coach Coughlin, because he was a completely different person privately than what the public saw. Yeah. I mean, the loving grandfather, the engaged guy. He's the first person I told I was pregnant when I was pregnant with my daughter.
Wow.
In fact.
And
I
he
still remember at the owners' meetings, him and his wife shooting.
Ever in the NFL?
Yeah. Because he's fair and he was consistent. You know what, Jay?
Well,
you knew exactly what you were getting.
It's all about personal relationships.
He was consistent. You knew where you were getting. And here's the thing. He never gave me anything special, but he never gave anybody else anything special.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I knew that this coach is talking to that guy, but not to me. Or this coach is giving this to this girl, but not to me. Tom Coughlin was consistent. He was honest. He was who he was. And when he was told, you need to soften a little bit, he did.
Yeah, he
listened.
did. He definitely changed.
He adapted when necessary.
Yeah.
And he won. And look, you can ask Michael Strahan. Michael Strahan has told me this, that when he first got in the league, he hated the guy. Now he credits the guy with making him who he ended up being.
Yeah,
and
I've
you'll
heard
hear that from a lot of people.
I've heard players say that he's the boss or the teacher that you hated at first, but you that person ended up being your favorite because you realized he made you reach your potential. That was Tom Coughlin.
Exactly.
But I had also talked to a lot of players that didn't like him.
I'd also encourage you to go back and watch that Football Life on him, because the story of him and his wife, Judy, it's just the biggest love story I think I've ever seen.
It's amazing.
And Judy Coughlin, P.S., is the exact opposite persona of Tom Coughlin. I mean, just as warm and loving and beautiful a human as I've ever been around.
Maybe she helped in the metamorphosis.
This turned into a real Coughlin love fest, didn't it?
Yeah, and I didn't see that coming. Aditi, the camera is in the mail.
Yeah.
The camera is in the mail.
Free
Okay.
bro.
Right.
And when we see you next, you're going to be in vivid 4K.
We'll see you next week.
It's going to be awesome.
Awesome. I'll
Bye,
put on the
Aditi.
fake eyelashes.
I'll pay for it.
All righty. Bye.
See you later.
Thank you, Aditi.
Bye.
Yeah, I didn't see that coming either, the Coughlin Love Fest.
No, we really went all in on the Coughlins.
Yeah.
But hey, it turns out they're delightful people. Never called you after you had a kid, right?
I never told Tom that we were expecting.
Right.
That never came
he
up.
should have known.
By the way,
he should have known.
Never came up.
The first thing Jay told me
the women do all the
never
hard
ask
parts.
a woman if she's pregnant
Yeah,
or not.
don't do that.
No, I almost
Who
did it
needed
in
to
the
be
studio
told
that
that?
one time.
Who needed to be told that at this point?
Yeah, I'm
Hey.
surprised it took that long for you to hear that.
Hey, I
occurred to
I
someone?
just don't talk.
All
I
right.
look at the ground.
I
made
got to
that
get about
mistake.
the Cavs here because I'm angry about something.
Yes.
Can we get to this?
Are you
Dejounte.
angry or are you raging bull?
I am raging. I don't know if I'm raging or I'm seeing red. I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but I'm
Depends
angry.
how the branding goes.
Now, at first, I was angry that the Cavs didn't trade because I've been screaming for months about wanting to see the Cavs trade for Dejounte Murray. And by the way, all the supposed geniuses about the Cavs, nobody ever said to me, well, they don't have the draft picks, they don't have the draft picks, they don't have the draft picks. Now, yesterday I complained about it. And first of all, the Hawks got nothing in this. I mean, the Spurs get nothing in this deal. Now, the losers out there are going to say, well, they got 3 draft picks, blah, blah, blah. I don't give a crap. Draft picks are for losers. Trophies are for winners. It's very simple. I don't care about draft picks if you get obsessed about draft picks. Now, in the end, the Cavs couldn't trade their 23 pick because of the stupid Karis LeVert deal. Now, to be fair, I like the Karis LeVert deal, so I'll admit.
Stupid.
You're talking in circles, Bull.
But Dejounte Murray is 70 million times better than Karis LeVert. And my buddy Chris Fedor saying to me yesterday, well, he's not a great fit with this team. I don't know. Do you agree with that?
No, I disagree. I think he's a great fit.
So you're saying Chris is wrong?
I'm just saying we disagree.
Kill Chris. Kill him.
I just think
Can you say publicly right now that you hate Chris's guts?
I'm in a fantasy baseball league with him. I can't say that.
Dejounte Murray almost averaged a triple-double last year. Somebody said, well, but he's an inefficient shooter. He almost averaged a triple-double, and he led the league in steals. Inefficient shooter. His team sucked. Sucked. Okay? Well, Colin Sexton's a great efficient shooter.
Maybe that's
These
why
guys were complaining you had to give up too much. They gave up nothing. They gave up 3 draft picks. But okay, all right, so they couldn't make a trade. But here's what I'm really angry about. Not even about that. That Murray made another team in the East better than the Cavs, potentially.
Yeah, that stinks.
But here's what I'm mad about. And this is a chronic problem with my fellow Clevelanders. And yes, I'm a Clevelander. I've admitted this. I am a mutt. I'm a half New Yorker, half Clevelander.
You ain't got to apologize.
No, I'm not saying, but Cleveland is in my blood now. Okay, I've been here long enough. All right? And let me talk to you, my fellow Clevelanders. And most of you are Baker Bros also. This loser mentality. There's a loser mentality from a percentage of the fan base. The Baker Bros have a loser mentality. Because the loser mentality says, well, we're pretty good. I don't want to mess with it. I have morons on Twitter yesterday saying, I don't want to trade for Dejounte Murray. We don't need him. You don't need him? He's an all-star. What kind of idiot says they don't need an all-star? See, I was one of those idiots last year. I said the stupidest thing ever on the radio. I said I don't want LeBron James on this team. And then a week later I said, what the you know what
Nice
is
save.
wrong with you?
Nice save.
Who the hell wouldn't want LeBron? I don't want LeBron. I want to win a championship.
Well, who the hell would say it? You said it.
I know that. I was an idiot.
Are you yelling at you right now?
Yes.
Okay.
But now,
I just
every
love
year.
that Baker is catching strays on a rant about the Cavs. Cavs. No,
Because
Baker Bros were in the crosshairs.
Here's why the Baker Bros were in the crosshairs. Because they had
Hedges
this. Well, he won a playoff game, so we shouldn't replace him because Brian Hoyer and Brandon Weeden never won playoff games. Oh, yeah? Who gives a rat's ass? Let me tell you something. You always try to get better. Always. Don't tell me the Cavs don't need to trade for an all-star. What are you, stupid? Of course they need another all-star. They haven't won a freaking playoff game without LeBron in 5,000 years. What are you talking about? We don't need another player. I'm spitting all over the place.
I'm right near you.
Fans do this with the Guardians.
His wrists are wet.
I remember.
I'm wet.
There's a splash
I
zone.
remember in 2017. In 2017, I was banging the table for the Indians at the time to make some trade. I don't even remember what the trade was at the time. And I got a million tweets. Don't mess with it. They're winning a million games. They have great chemistry. Yeah, because if one good player gets added to the team, it's going to F up the whole chemistry. Are you stupid? The Cavs are a good basketball team. They're not a championship team. They need you in the NBA. You say, well, they got 3 all-star caliber players. They do, but at the moment, and maybe Mobley will turn into one. I don't know what you think, Jason. They don't have the super elites, right, Jay? If that's your top 3 quarterbacks, you call them super elites, right? The Cavs don't have a LeBron James. They don't have a Kevin Durant. They have 3 awesome players.
You think Mobley can become one?
Mobley, I don't think.
Yes.
I do
You
too.
think he's going to become that good?
Wait, which Mobley? Just kidding. I'm kidding.
Continue. So you always, this idea that we should stand pat because we're good is the stupidest thing ever. Even the Dodgers have been one of the best franchises in baseball. What do they do this offseason? They signed Freddie Freeman, the MVP of the World Series.
That just cost them money.
Did they just
Right.
So what?
Well, it's easy.
Who gives a crap? I don't care if it costs money. I don't care if it costs draft picks. I don't care if it costs me my throat not being able to talk for the rest of the freaking day. Stop being babies. Stop being losers. Most of you are not. 80% of you are cool. But the Baker Bros it's tied in. You're the same people that don't want to make trades, don't want to sign free agents, don't want to mess up with the chemistry. If one player added to your team, baseball, football, basketball, is going to screw up the chemistry, then your team sucks and wasn't good enough to begin with.
Is there a defibrillator on this set?
We're going to need one.
I'm just
I swear
curious.
we're
I
going to
just
need
got to start
one.
wearing a parka like I'm in a Gallagher show.
He only inhaled twice during that 5-minute rant. His doctor is calling me right now saying, Jay, step in.
I know.
Step in now.
His wife's texting all
I've
of
got to pee right now, too, for crying out loud.
Bull,
Somebody give me a bucket.
Bull, some of what you said made sense.
All of it.
Some.
A lot of what you said
That was
contradicted
That was
the
what?
part that made sense.
What? What contradicted?
Well, what's funny to me is our biggest disagreement is that the Browns trade needs to end in an NFL championship, a Super Bowl win.
Or
for
it's
it
a
to be good.
disappointment, yes.
Or I say that's a loser's mentality if you're okay with it not.
I'm not okay with it.
But anything else than that is second best.
Yes.
At worst.
Agreed.
Okay,
Agreed.
so
I just wouldn't say the trade's a disaster. I'm not okay with the Browns not
let me
winning
ask
the
you
Super
this:
Bowl with Watson.
if the Cavs get Murray,
Yes.
if they were
Yeah.
to get Murray and give
Yeah.
up all that, because I'm kind of with you, draft picks in the NBA, whatever they
cares?
are, what
Yeah.
they are. You can build a team through free agency if you want to go that route.
Not
if they
in
would
Cleveland.
get Murray, do you think that that's going to win the Cavs the NBA championship? Do you think they're the favorite to win the NBA championship?
No, but I
don't
think it
either.
would give them a much better chance.
Jason, when teams make these kind of moves, what kind of conversations are going on in the front office about? Because I've always wondered, this is a move that would make us better, but it isn't going to put us over the top. Is that conversation happening with the Cavs on this Murray trade?
Oh, yeah.
They can't
absolutely.
stand pat on this team, Jason.
No, so
Where do you begin?
I have 11 minutes, and not even, because we haven't even got to the Guardians yet.
Yeah.
Okay, let's unpack this as quick as we can.
Okay.
Don't dismiss the currency of the draft picks. And I know you're going to say
Agreed.
Listen, when Boston traded Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett to Brooklyn, everyone said, oh my God, what a home run trade for Brooklyn.
They did.
It was a disaster for Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm.
I talked to NBA people who said Danny Ainge knocked that out of the park. And they turned that into Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. And look where the Celtics are today because of that
Yeah,
trade.
but you can give the opposite example.
But no, listen. It's a 2025 and a 2027 unprotected pick. When we were texting last night, I didn't realize those picks were unprotected. Complete unprotection is incredibly dangerous in the NBA. And you could say, okay, well, that's down the road. This Atlanta regime is under immense pressure to win right now. I heard that from a bunch of different people over the last 24 hours. And they stood pat, kind of what Bull was saying. They did stand pat last year. They said, we got Trae Young, we got this young team.
Went backwards.
Let's see
They
where
did
it
go
goes.
backwards.
And they took a step back. And now all of a sudden, it is pedal to the metal. To an unprotected pick in 25, an unprotected pick in 27, and basically an unprotected pick in 26 because there's swap rights. That's made by a GM who doesn't think he's going to be here.
Yeah,
in 20,
right.
Seriously.
No, it
in
is.
25, 26, and 27.
I wanna win
so
now
screw
and-
it. We got to go right now.
Yeah.
The Cavs feel, right or wrong, and you can disagree with this, and I've said the thing that is so good about where they are right now is their best piece is their youngest piece. It's not like Zion, where he's already coming up on a max, and what do we do with him? Evan Mobley is their number one. He's going to be their number one on a championship type run, and he's coming off his rookie deal. They have. I'm not saying don't ever make a trade like this. I'm saying I don't know if this was the right guy to make it on. I think he makes them better, immensely better.
But it has to be the difference
But
maker.
you also have to sort of keep your powder dry for the right guy.
But they have to make a move like this at some point, don't they?
And I think that they can. I mean, they got Kevin
Yes.
Love on an expiring. I roll my eyes at the expiring all the time because the idea of trading him for a bad contract and assets back in the day when they were doing that sort of thing, I never thought was very realistic. But they do have a pretty big trade bullet now to fire. The problem is getting people to come to Cleveland. You said you can build through free agency. You can't in Cleveland.
No, 'cause
you have to
yeah.
hold people at gunpoint to get them to come here.
Well,
you just do.
Unless you have a LeBron James on your roster and people are willing to come.
Quick point about how important these draft picks can be. Who are our two best players? Two of our three best players,
Yes,
anyways.
absolutely.
We drafted them both.
Yeah.
Who just won the NBA title? Where did they get their best players
Yeah,
at?
you're absolutely
Got them all
right.
through the draft. If you actually draft correctly, it's enormously
Agreed,
important.
but my point is if you're trying to win and if you're a contender, your draft picks in the bottom 10, it's not likely to
Correct.
be a key player.
But
But it better be the.
But if you have a disastrous
And the
season, it could
Spurs-
crush
and
you.
3,
I
4,
guess
5
did the
years
right
is a
move.
lifetime. Oh, it was
You
the right
can't
move
be
for the
scared
Spurs.
to trade draft picks is all.
No,
I'm
I
saying.
don't think they are.
Jason, was the equivalent of this trade what the Rams did to get Stafford?
That's I hadn't thought of
Stafford-
that.
They went all in, but the reason I bring that up is because when they made the trade, everybody said, "Wow, they're in to win it now. This
Right,
is it,
right.
and if they don't, it's going to be a disaster." But now they're playing with house money.
They won.
They won.
won.
Now they can try to win
Right.
2 or 3
That's
or
true.
become dynastic.
And I've actually used the Rams in the Master Baker debate of
Master? I'm sorry?
hard K.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
That
The closed caption's going to have a field day.
that the Rams had a guy take them to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And they said, he's not good enough. We have to do better. And they went all in on Matthew Stafford, and it worked. It paid off, and they won the Super Bowl.
Yep.
Are you willing to say Dejounte Murray is the piece that is going to win us a championship?
I wasn't.
If you're willing to say that, make this deal. But if you're not willing to say that, you have to sort of keep your powder dry for when that time comes.
And you set your if you don't, you set your franchise back years.
Well, I think it all hinges on the fact when they say Mobley is a super piece, a super max dude, he has to be Durant. He has to be LeBron. He has to be Giannis.
Well,
If he is, they can win a championship.
if he is,
Yes.
they can win.
Now you're talking greatest of all time. I'm not going to put a rookie into that. But I do think Evan Mobley can be a number one on a championship team. He can be the pillar of a championship organization. Darius is a great
and the
number
Cavs
two.
think that too.
And the Cavs, I think they think that too. And Jarrett could be a number. Like they have, I've said this for months. They have organically built a big three, and that is almost impossible to do. Golden State did it. San Antonio did it. Oklahoma City did it, and the owner was too cheap to keep it.
And they did it through
the draft.
Trade. Jared Allen was a trade.
But
Jared
that
Allen
was a minor
but,
trade.
But
It was a-
Mobley is the big piece to this
Agreed,
thing.
but those were top five picks.
When you look at what the Warriors have done, where they got Draymond,
But I will
there is
also-
value in these picks.
There is, but I will also argue that you can find value in the NBA now, much different places than you could 10 to 15 years ago. Everyone wanted a top 5 pick. Look what Miami did. Look what Toronto has done. They're finding undrafted guys and they're developing them. It is possible to do that.
Last thing, real quick, though. You guys keep bringing up these other teams. Those teams were starting over and building. The Cavs are past the starting over point. And one other bonus on the big three is not only are they really good, but they're also really likable, which is a nice bonus. It doesn't matter about
It
winning.
is, but Bull, to your point, they're on the front edge of building. They're not on. This window is just now opening.
It's just opening.
Right, but they're not at the starting over.
I love the way you put it. Keep your powder dry. There is going to be a deal that makes sense. Make it when it makes sense.
Keep your powder dry.
Got to talk Guardians because we're running low on time. I thought last night was one of the most. I think it was probably the most emotional win this year. I don't know.
I shut it off.
You know, you did?
Yeah, I shut the game off.
That's a bad job out of you.
I shut the game off.
Well, it was.
We were actually out to dinner watching it, Winky Lizard. I was listening, driving home.
At
and
6-3, it felt
when
pretty
Kepler
bad.
hit the home run, I changed the station.
Yeah.
Never
Don't
went
worry,
back
Jay.
to
Most
it.
of the sports talk shows in Cleveland didn't even watch the game. So it's all right.
Shade.
Everybody's catching strays.
I want to say that I think it was the most emotional win that we've seen so far. Hopefully, I know in baseball the momentum is the next day's pitcher, but Bieber's going today. So I do think that if they win today, they're a game out of first place. What do you?
They were going to be 4 out.
They would have. The difference between 4 and 2.
Huge.
I know it's
Massive.
early,
Especially with the Yankees coming.
but it is
It's
massive.
It's the mentality.
Combine it
of
with the Yankees coming to town, that would have been a huge difference. Now, listen, I want to love Naylor. I think I'm pushing him. I'm really enjoying his season this year. I've been calling him an average player.
Yeah, you don't even like him.
No, I want to like him because I love his emotion. I love the fact that he's kind of a little fat, which I love. I love fat guys. I love it. And his emotion definitely deserves an upgrade over his talent. Like he's a good solid player. He's not a superstar. He's never going to be a superstar.
He's the kind of player Cleveland loves.
No doubt about it, because he plays with his heart on his sleeve.
Yeah.
And that
He
was
plays
huge.
hard.
That was a clutch hit to go opposite field in that situation. Why the Twins brought in Jarrell Cotton in that situation?
I have no idea.
No idea what they were thinking.
No.
The guy's a journeyman pitcher. I don't understand that. I would have stuck with what's his name, the kid who pitched the 8th, who's like Duran.
Joan Duran.
Man, that guy's
He's
throwing.
filthy.
He should be their closer. Pagan's okay, but
No.
and the Guardians have killed Pagan.
Yeah.
And I don't understand.
Baldelli has made some
Baldelli
really
screwed up. He
questionable
should have had
late
Durant in the
game
ninth
pitching
with
changes.
the best of the Guardians lineup.
Yeah.
We talked about it briefly before. Ahmed Rosario is on fire. You can't. Guy couldn't get a hit to save his life for 2 months. Now you can't get him out.
He's hitting 300.
playing great. You know, we need a little more consistency with the lineup. It's been up and down. You're getting nothing out of center field. You're getting nothing out of catcher offensively.
They got to win. They got to win the series. They gotta
win the series today. Well, the game's starting in a couple of minutes.
Yeah,
here, right?
It starts in 10 minutes.
Let's go.
Bieber's on the hill.
And down the stretch, I mean, I know we're only halfway point, but we got to get vintage Bieber back. We need the ace. He's really good, but he's not vintage.
I'm not sure it's ever coming back.
I don't think I'm with you. When I
back.
watch him, to forget the score and everything else, and you just look at his stuff, it's not as good. It's not as good. And I
If
can't
the
explain
Guardians,
why.
guys,
I
listen,
can't explain why. I don't know
Guardians, if the Guardians are going to win this division, if they're really listen, the American League East has all the best teams outside of Houston, right? This division, in the Central and the West, the Astros are the only good team. The Guardians are okay. The Twins are okay. Everybody else stinks between the Central and the West. The White Sox are a mess. It's not their year. Maybe they'll turn it around.
I don't know. They're only 6 out.
They just have to get healthy.
I just think they're a mess. They may put it together.
I'm not looking past the White Sox.
But the Guardians need to go all in, and they need not only
Dejounte Murray.
Yes, maybe he can play baseball. They need to get a starting pitcher, too. I think they need to get a starting pitcher.
Who are we talking about? Who needs a starter?
I think the Guardians need a starting pitcher.
I've said that.
Yeah. Well, it sounds weird to say it because they never think about that.
I want a center fielder, a catcher, and a starter. I think they should be aggressive and get all 3.
Plesac and Savali are not the next in this long pipeline that they've had.
It doesn't look
They're
like
average pitchers.
Not.
They're average guys.
I thought they were.
At one time, it looked like they might be.
Hey, new owner guy, you want to make some friends in Cleveland right now? Why don't you sign us some players?
Trade
all
for
of a sudden?
Dejounte
The problem is, Jason,
I know a lot
who's
of
the
stuff that
elite
start with
pitcher
that.
that's available?
Well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, Castillo possibly.
He's not elite.
He's probably the
good.
best. He's probably the best that's available right
wasn't,
now.
you know.
And I've already talked at length about the imbalance of the 40-man, and they're going to have to do something. So they are going to be proactive. In terms of Bieber, what's different? Well, the sticky stuff went away, and the shoulder injury last year. That's where you got to put the money on. It's one of those.
We made him stop cheating.
And you know, I've had conversations with them about sort of his legs and his delivery and trying to tweak some things. Listen, it's not working. The metrics beyond did he get the guy out or not? The metrics are concerning with him, and
the velocity.
I just don't think I absolutely believe this very well could be Shane Bieber's last year in Cleveland.
Wow.
They have to trade him if they're not going to sign him.
He's down to
they're
2 years
seeing the
left
same
after
thing
this.
we're seeing.
Yeah.
And if that's true and it continues, his value goes down with every start.
Right.
By the way, it's not crazy. And they've done this before. They could be buyers and still trade Shane Bieber this season.
Oh, sure.
They did it with Trevor Bauer.
They did.
Yeah, you could
They did.
absolutely do that.
I think they probably. I shouldn't say that. You're right. I don't know. I was going to say they probably
did it with
keep
Bauer.
him.
I know Bauer off the. He's
But Bauer
pain in
was
the
a
neck,
lunatic.
but-
Yeah. Bauer was
Better
crazy.
into that deal, didn't we?
Yeah. But guys, I'm serious. They need a center fielder and they need a catcher.
They just signed Miles Straw to a 5-year, $25 million
Yeah, but he's not
deal.
making a lot of money.
No, but that's a huge miss.
That is to them. They're not going to
yeah.
move on from him. And Terry loves him defensively. He says, you hit it to center field,
Well, then
you're
if
out.
you're going to
and that's
go
a
with a
really
defensive
gotta hit
fielder,
200.
then go get Contreras and have one of the best hitting catchers in baseball. He's not going to cost that much. He's a rental.
Maley and your buddy Hedges are both hitting like below 170.
They
That's
suck.
not strong.
They're awful.
I know that teams say, well, let's just get a good defensive catcher, and you can't overlook 160 and 175.
Wilson Contreras is an above. He's not as good as those guys defensively, but he's above average. He's not bad behind the plate.
No, he's not going to kill you.
He is one of the maybe the best hitting catcher in baseball. I mean, he's certainly up there. I mean, I'm trying to think who's better right now.
Well, Carlos
Perez is hurt.
Carlos Santana was just moved by the Royals, and I'm wondering if the Guardians even had conversations.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
All right, we got to get to good.
Okay, good bet, bad bet.
Yeah.
Good bet, bad bet. And for the record, Hedges betting 160, Maley betting 179, Straw betting 199.
Okay.
Three guys under
that's what I
200.
said.
Add that up, and that's an all-star right there.
Three guys below 200.
All right, we're going to run through good bet, bad bet. But first, let's take the standing, Steve, because for the first time all year, look at the tie atop.
Oh,
the
my
standings.
God.
1-3.
Are you kidding?
Dead
That's
even.
crazy.
That's
G. Bush went
98
0-3
games
yesterday.
in. It's a
Bull went
three-way
1-2.
What are
Jay
the
went
odds of
2-1.
that happening?
Hey, what did I do for you? You went
That
2
is
and 1, right?
nuts.
I go 2 and 1.
Yeah,
All right,
yeah.
all right. I'll give you 2 and 1.
All right, so we're going to run through these so
Mike's
we can get through
tanking
final
lately.
takes.
We're exactly opposite on all three of our picks.
taking a
today.
bath.
I know, right?
We are
This
disgusting.
They
guy's
are,
the
so we will
biggest
not be
swing ever.
tied tomorrow. Let's get to the first one real quick. Guardians,
swing.
1.5 run favorites, as you mentioned. Bieber pitching against Chris Archer.
G alone here.
Archer's looked pretty good. His record is average, but
Yeah.
he's not the guy that he was in Tampa, but
No.
he's been pretty good the last couple of outings. So
All right. What's next?
I'm buying the momentum. I don't usually buy momentum in baseball, but I'm buying it off of that win last
when you
night.
have momentum and Bieber,
Yeah.
it's a good bet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, number 2, speaking of Bieber, over 7.5 strikeouts tonight for Shane Bieber.
Yeah, Jay and I are together. My thought is, if the Guardians win, I think Bieber's going to pitch well. If he pitches well, he should have 8 strikeouts.
Yeah, so you didn't hedge your bet. You're all in
Right,
on it.
exactly.
Okay.
All right,
And
last one. Neither team scores a run in the first 2 innings tonight. It was plus 135.
Ooh, G alone on
G.
this
Bush.
I gotta make up some.
Yeah, you got
some ground.
that's 2 of those that you're
Yeah.
against the squad.
Yeah, I'm gonna get some.
Yeah.
Big swing today.
Yeah, it
What
is.
a
It's going to be a
big
big
swing.
move.
AOC always wins. No, I'm playing.
What I'm stunned at is after 98 games, the three of us are deadlocked.
That's amazing.
That's
It's
crazy.
actually
picks.
amazing.
It's
Yeah.
like, what are the
Improbable.
odds?
What's that?
Improbable.
1,000,000 to 1? I mean, it's going to be like an 1,000,000 to 1
It's
shot. no?
unbelievable.
On the same cycle, like nuns in a
We're
convent.
all just
that's
mediocre.
true.
We're not elite. We're just mediocre.
I disagree with that. If you're over 500 in betting, you're a winner.
Yeah.
You're a winner.
You're
We're,
beating Vegas.
no, we're above
you're not
average.
elite.
Beating
We are,
Vegas.
no, we're not elite, but we're
Yeah.
above average. We're not mediocre.
Yeah.
Oh, so
We're
then you're not
making money.
Baker.
Yeah, we making money.
that?
I said you're Baker if you're average, but you're saying you're above
We're
average.
above
so
average.
You're not
We're better than Baker.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're counting cards.
Let's get to final takes. Mr. Bull, you're
I
up first
feel like
today.
Bull just did his final take.
I mean,
No.
He
what
did
he
like
got-
4
he
finals.
got-
Well, I
he
got
stuff-
one too. I just got to remind
He
myself
got
what
stuff
it is.
still in the holster. he got a whole clip.
Smoke him if you got him, Bull.
Okay, so great story out of baseball. I don't know if you guys saw this. Yesterday, Mark Appel. Does anybody know who Mark Appel is?
Yeah,
Okay.
number one
Mark
pick.
Appel became the oldest pitcher ever drafted first overall.
I saw that.
The oldest player ever drafted first overall to make his major league debut. He's almost 32 years old. Mark Appel was drafted first overall by the Astros in, I believe, 2013. I think it was.
It was 13.
Right? This guy was so hyped. He was taken ahead of Chris Bryant, I believe, in 2013. This guy was supposed to be the next great pitcher. He was a disaster. Couldn't get anybody out. He dealt with injuries. Eventually, the Astros traded him to the Phillies.
Yep.
Went to Philly. He was still a disaster. He was still having injuries. He retires from baseball in 2018, never getting close
With
to
a
the
career
majors.
ERA in the minor leagues over 5.
Yeah, it was terrible. He was awful and injured. Retires. Came back to baseball last year. Went back to the Phillies after 3 years out. And goes to the minors. Did a decent job. This year, he pitched in AA, AAA, and was great. I think he had like a 150 ERA. They called him up a few days ago. Last night, he made his major league debut. Went 1 inning, 1
In
strikeout,
relief.
1 hit, no runs in relief. Yes. So congratulations to Mark Appel. That's an amazing story. The only other first overall pick to ever make a major league debut after the age of 30 was Matt Bush of the Rangers, who I believe had drug problems. And I think he was drafted as a hitter.
And
then he
switched to
came
a-
back as a pitcher,
Yeah.
and he's been in the Rangers bullpen the last couple of years.
It is a great story.
Great story.
He pitched late in the game and his team was down.
Ninth inning, they were down
so it
4-1,
wasn't
I think.
Yeah, but still, just to watch him come out there
Yeah.
and get 3 outs.
Yeah.
And his teammates, you could tell his teammates were
Oh,
over the moon.
that's an amazing story.
excited for
It's like a Disney movie from the 90s or something like that.
Jim Morris.
Okay, real quick, guys. I'm doing a story. You know how I'm a hard-hitting pseudo-journalist for WKYC during the day. I'm doing a story on the fireworks law that we got going on in Ohio. We got 4th of July right around the corner. New fireworks law, Ohio. Congratulations. You all get to fire off fireworks. You can buy them, shoot them off in your backyard, anywhere you want now. Thank you for this new law. Nope, not quite. There was a actual carve-out in the law that allowed towns, communities, cities to say, no thank you. We pass on that law. We'd rather not. Here's just a partial list of the communities that have decided to duck out. Bay Village, Bedford, Berea, Brecksville, Broadview Heights, Brook Park, Cleveland Heights, Cleveland, Euclid, Highland Heights, Lakewood, Lyndhurst, Avon Lake, East Lake. This goes on forever.
Is Rocky River out? I don't want
Rocky
anybody doing
River's,
that.
yes, Rocky River's out.
Yes.
Are there
Everybody's
certain
out.
days that they are allowed to do them?
Yeah, it gets really
I
specific.
hate the 4th
but
of
no,
July and fireworks.
For these ones, never.
Across the board.
Across the board. They
Oh,
can't.
wow.
Yeah, so it's still under the same law that it was essentially last year, which is none, but we all look the other way. Nobody's going to stop firing off fireworks. If anything, they have a little bit more lenience probably now because you can be like, it's a state law. Get off my back, Shaker Heights or South Euclid cop. Other ones these are the ones that surprise me. Medina opted out? Are you kidding me? It's like the South. Brunswick opted out. Brunswick is the Texas of Northeast Ohio.
Maybe they're just confused by the law?
Maybe, I don't know. Independence opted out.
Wow.
Your name is Independence. It's Independence Day. What are you doing? Here are the only ones that are allowing it. No joke. These are the only 3 that I could find where you actually can fire off fireworks. And that is Olmsted Falls, Maple Heights, and Fairview Park. I don't know what's going on there.
That's too close. I live close to Fairview Park. I
All
don't
right,
like
well,
that.
it's not all about you, Bull.
It is. It's always about me.
Regardless, so what I'm saying is, long story short, it is an interesting law in that they allowed everyone to opt out. It will be interesting moving forward if the Ohio legislature moves forward and does abandon and outlaw abortion outright, if they'll allow the same sort of home rule choices to these places. Will it be up to these communities, or is this just a very specific thing that they care about? And one last point: if you are in Maple Heights or Olmsted Falls or Fairview Park, it is going to look like a Kiss concert during Their encore, I want to rock and roll all night party every day for the next 2 straight weeks. So good luck, get your pets underground, and have fun out there, everybody.
Yeah. By the way, black people ain't allowed playing with fireworks.
No, just that.
Brianna will tell you that right now.
Is that true?
That's dead true.
That's a rule, no doubt.
Jason Pierre-Paul.
What's the funny? There's a YouTube clip. Was his name Jerry, the guy that was in the wheelchair, and he lit off all the fireworks, and I can't believe you haven't seen it.
Did it end well?
No. It did not end well. It did not end well.
If we can't get sparklers. Nothing.
Oh, okay.
You guys, we've spent a lot of time. You guys got 3 minutes to do all your fun.
Yeah, I've lost my last take is already gone.
It's finished.
So take your time.
Hey, listen, dude.
Take your time.
Don't blow yourself up on 4th of July. Come on, bro. One of the 2 or 3 most dangerous places in the world is 4-wheelers, motorcycles, and fireworks. Some people do all 3 at the same time, doing Papa Willies. Please don't do it. Learn from Jason Pierre-Paul. I just dropped a weight on my finger, and I'm over here emotional inside. I hurt today. Can you imagine having to go to the hospital? You know the waiting lines over at UH is crazy, and please do not go downtown. You guys are running around. Listen, tell your kids, take them somewhere. I'm sure they do fireworks. They'll fire them off.
Leave it to the pros.
Yeah, let them go off. But don't blow your arms off.
True.
Google the pictures of Jason Pierre-Paul. His hand. And anybody that thought about lighting any kind of firework will think twice.
I want nothing to do with that.
I think we should tweet out G. Bush, quote, don't blow your arms off.
Don't blow your arms off.
But if my neighbor wants to blow his arm off for my amusement, I'm not against that.
You'll watch.
I'm not against that.
Video is called Put It in Reverse Terry.
Put it in reverse, Terry. I can't believe you haven't seen that. I don't know that I've laughed so hard at anything I've ever seen on the internet. We'll all watch it collectively, but if you're at home, Google it. Put it in reverse, Terry.
Jason, what you got, dog?
All right, real quick. My final take today is you got to have a guy. I got a guy. I'm so thankful for my guy, Mike. Everybody needs a guy, Mike. He can do anything in the house. He can fix. He's over now. I gave you his number.
Yeah,
he could even fix my car. If you remember back, I had the bumper flapping off the old car, and I went out and bought a new car.
Not no more.
He fixed the flapper bumper on the car.
Fix-it guy.
Little glue, and he popped it because I gave my old car to my son, and he popped that fender back in. I was like, Mike, if I had known you could fix that for a $6 tube of glue, I may not have bought a Mercedes.
Way to save my
And your marriage wouldn't be in trouble.
I mean, all the problems we could have avoided if I'd have known a $6 tube of glue would have fixed both fenders on my car that were flapping around. So now my son is driving around a car with a nice little hybrid, good on gas. Fenders don't flap around, and I'm stuck in a Mercedes. All because of the $6 tube of glue.
What a tough life.
Yeah, you still got 25 seconds.
MacGyver. I love it. Yeah, duct tape
you got 20
and a tube of
seconds.
glue. No, I don't have time. I'll give you the synopsis was I've talked to a Little League coach recently who said that Little League nationwide is in peril.
Yeah.
One
We're
of the
going to save
big
it
reasons?
tonight. Mike and Anthony are coming down for our final regular season game. And by the way, I'm sorry. By the way,
thanks. We'll see you tomorrow on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show.
I hate 4th of July because of the fireworks. And the people that are mad that I'm saying I hate 4th of July would have sided with the British anyway, those people.
No, Jay, really, do your final take. Really.